Vigilante Wednesday here on the 21st episode of the Culture Crime Fighters. Not only am I joined by my partner in Culture Crime Fighting, Matt from Foulball Productions, we have a special guest, none other but the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, Kamran Pasha. How you doing, man?
I'm great. And what a great opening. I hadn't been on your channel before, and what a wonderful opening. That's so much fun.
Thanks. Yeah, I was watching that because, especially when we have a guest, I get to watch it through new eyes, and I'm like, I really love this. I have fun with that. Yeah.
It's a fun intro.
Really
and I always notice new people that I didn't notice in the previous intro.
Yeah.
Where's Waldo? You got to go through it. Oh, there's that.
Oh, there's Tom King. Oh, is that John Oliver? Oh, okay.
Yeah, Tom King and the NPC. I love the NPC. Just the lone gray NPC meme. Just it's great.
Yeah. That was probably my favorite meme ever when that came out. The NPC.
Which NPC meme? Which NPC meme you talking about?
Just the concept of having a great NPC guy as a meme, and then just
and just kind of like putting it over that mentality, like that they only have like a certain amount of scripts that they can repeat. Like they're just
the same words, the same phrases. They use them in the most inappropriate moments because there's nothing else for them to respond to. So
yeah, exactly. I was like, they nailed it. Like, because I would talk to people like in LA, and you in completely different people, different environments, they would say the exact same words, like no spin, no individuality, the exact same talking point. It was like
every meeting that that I sit through on Hollywood now, we're doing on Zoom. It's all the same phrases. We got to promote diversity, we got to promote Latinx. It was just the same. I went through a meeting like that today. I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'm with you, boss. Yeah, just it is what it is, right? It's just the same phrases.
Well, how knowledgeable are the people in Hollywood about you, hanging out with the dregs of society like us?
Yeah.
Do they know that you go on?
I only think the dregs like Mr. Hidalgo are the only ones that know. People themselves are the dregs of Hollywood that are at the bottom of the barrel are the only ones that have the idea this is happening.
So they don't know you go on like Nerdrotic and like, the 8,000 people watching and you just trash them like up and down.
Well, look, I've got, now that I'm off Twitter, I still have Facebook, and thankfully there weren't a lot of industry people following me on my new Twitter. There were a lot following the old one. They're like, hey, what are you talking about? But on my Facebook, I do have a lot of industry friends, and so I do post some of the videos I've done on there, but I'm very selective about what I post, right? And so far nobody seems to, I haven't gotten that call from my representative saying, "Hey man, what are you doing?" I haven't gotten that call yet from my agents or anybody else. So I think we're okay.
Even from the ban, like no one that didn't come up.
Even what? I'm sorry. Oh,
like from the Twitter ban.
Like I said, my reps thankfully weren't following me. They had no idea what was going on.
They didn't even know. That's right.
It's probably better that they weren't. God bless them. They're wonderful people, and I don't want to make their lives more difficult, but I tend to do that. So
that's pretty funny.
Yeah,
that's pretty funny. So
shout out to your reps for repping you. Shout out to them.
Yeah, no, like my manager, I've been with her 16 years.
Wow, right on.
16 years. Yeah, it's like 2004. So what is that? That's 17 years now, right?
17 now. Yeah, we're in 2021.
Yeah, so 17 years. I've been in town 20 years, so she's been with me almost the entire journey. She's seen the entire thing up and down. Now I'll give you a story. I love to give stories, right? Here.
Yes.
But look, you asked the question of, is my doing this, and so there are probably people out. There are people out there that don't like me anyway before any of this stuff, right? In the industry, right? So that's the only reason I'm talking. They already don't like me. It doesn't matter. But recently, there was a project I was up for that was brought to me by my wonderful manager. Some really nice young producers who had this very interesting project I really liked, and they got really excited about my pitch and take on it. And then, a few days later, I get this message from my manager saying they had pissed her off. I'm like, what do you mean they pissed her off? They said, they were young producers. They didn't really know what they were doing, and so. After getting excited about having me potentially as the showrunner of the project, they decided to do the reference calls, and they call a couple people that don't like me, right? And so they heard some stuff they didn't like, and so immediately they're like, well, we want to get on the call. We're very concerned about Kamran Pasha. And my manager, who's been with me 17 years, she said, I'm not doing a call about my client. I know my client inside out. She said, I'm not interested in defending him. I know his moral character. I know his good points and his bad points. And if you have to shop around town to try to find some reason to create drama, we don't want to work with you. That's an incredibly loyal manager.
Yeah,
that's baller, man.
Yeah, she just said, she said, I'm not interested in having this call. I don't need to defend him. I've been with him almost 20 years. I know him. Wow. And I don't need to explain anything about him to you.
Good for
That's
her.
why she's my manager, right?
Yeah.
And we go loggerheads. Well, she's not yes woman. We go loggerheads, right?
Sure.
And so that's why she knows me.
But that if only there was more of that kind of toughness. I mean, I know that there is that kind of toughness, but standing up to the moral codes kind of toughness in Hollywood, like I just don't.
Probably something they heard. I mean, it's probably my politics. I don't think. I mean, people. There's two things that upset people in town about. Well, there's three things. The thing that upsets me, number one, is that I'm a Muslim. They don't like that. I'm actually a practicing Muslim. They don't like that. Number one, they don't like anyone who has any kind of religious faith. Number one,
sure,
and Islam in particular, they don't like that. Number two, they don't like my politics, which. Like I said, I'm sort of a Malcolm X conservative. I'm a self-empowerment guy, believes that the best way that the system ain't here for us minorities, and every time it pretends to be here for us, is trying to control us. And the best way is to just have your own power. That's my belief. And that's something that's really threatening to this town, which is all about, well, we're here for you, Mr. Brown man, right?
Yeah.
Like we're here, exactly what Malcolm said. We're here to put you in the house as a house slave, right? We'll take you out the field and put you in the house and let you sleep in the basement. Right. And I'm not interested in that. And so that's really threatening. And so it's that kind of stuff that makes me adversaries.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. There's so much of that kind of like exploitation, like in Hollywood, that's sort of like, a power dynamic, like the absolute predatory nature of like actors, like just what actors represent. Yeah. Like they're like cattle. It's just
they are, even movie stars are cattle, man. They don't have any power. They create the illusion of having power. They don't.
No, it's like the flood of them. It's like a fresh crop, all the time. And like the amount of ways that people like harvest and like prey on these just hopeful young people who just want to be there, just want to work. I mean, the amount of money I've given to things like casting director workshops or just, new headshot printing and just all these things. So much money.
The whole system is there to take the money of the young and the hopeful.
That's exactly right. And it's really an intense thing. And, we were talking about this just before, but Rogan, I guess this was maybe a few weeks ago, was on I had two people on his show. I don't know what they're called. I don't recognize them, but they're giant. They have like 500,000 subs. Yeah. But it's the Breaking Points podcast, or just called Breaking Points with Crystal and Cigar. And
I know them.
You know them?
They're from Hill. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
I know
Rogan. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, this got like 1 million views or whatever. But anyway, so they asked the guy of a point blank question about, what do people not understand about the way Hollywood operates? And he just broke it down. Like it was intense, man. But it was all kind of like, he framed it from the acting point of view, that there's just so many people coming there of hopefuls, and that they'll basically say and do whatever it takes to just not get unliked and not get kicked out of the group, and to hopefully work.
Oh yeah. I mean, look, it's hard enough for a top movie star to break free and do something the system's against. Look, again, I don't have to get political here, and some of your audience or you guys may disagree with some of this stuff, but I'm just giving an example of Mark Ruffalo. Okay, Mark Ruffalo is a pretty left guy. He's Mr. Bernie guy, right? He's always out there. Yeah. So he's always pretty strict. He's like, I won't vote for Biden. I'm a Bernie guy, right? He's that guy, right? And that's within the acceptable realm of discourse for Hollywood. You can be a Bernie guy, right? It's okay. Susan Sarandon's Bernie, you can be okay. But then, he's like, I'm pro-Palestine. 48 hours, like, well, I'm not that pro-Palestine. It's just like, so because that's the limit, right? That's outside the framework of conversation within Hollywood, right? You can be left on everything. You can't be left on that,
right?
In my opinion, right on that, because I think I have a pro-right issue on Palestine, which is on property rights. That's all other conversation. But the thing is, that's the limit, right? And that's the limit that even a movie star he's a movie star. He used to be an indie actor. He's a movie star, right? Yeah. He can't cross that line. He's got, same thing. Javier Bardem and Penelope Cruz came out and said some pro-Palestine stuff a couple years ago. 48 hours later, they're putting out a press release by their agents saying, no, I don't believe any of that. I mean, there's certain lines in Hollywood that you don't cross. And because who I am, I'm already over on the other side of that line. So that's the problem, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I think
crazy that.
Yeah, it's wild, but I think it's like what they talk about. Kind of getting roasted in the chat, but what they
the chat is going.
I mean, we have some interesting chats flying by.
Yeah, but it's like just to that point though, real quick, just the Mark Ruffalo thing. It's like I think it's almost every time they talk about politics, it's the virtue signal anyway. Like they're not really going to be like, hey, the miners in Pennsylvania are really getting screwed. Like they don't give a shit. They're not really using their platform for anything other than getting more work, right? So I think what happened when a few actors come out and were pro-Palestine, they're like, right? Isn't That's what we think, right? We don't think that.
Yeah,
I don't think
and
that.
the rest of the crowd is just silent. And you think, well, they probably are, but they go, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut on this one, man. My bread ain't buttered there.
Yeah, because under Obama, it was a little cool to be pro-Palestine for a while. Like, remember, he was like, but I mean, it became. I know he's not, but what's cool is not what's real. So it just kind of became like a little more nuanced, but not obviously not now.
But again, and we don't have to make this about the Middle East, but I'm using that as an example of the limits of Hollywood discourse, because again, we see when I was on Twitter, everyone's grumbling about the leftists in Hollywood. I'm like, they ain't as left as you think, buddy.
Right. No, they're not.
They're fake woke. They're
100%.
fake woke because it's about this, right?
Yeah,
and it's about this, number one, but it's also about their own personal ideologies, which, as we have seen, if their personal ideologies conflict with this, personal ideology wins.
Mm-hmm.
That's the system.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing
to preserve the narrative.
It's an interesting.
I think that's the most mind-boggling thing for like us as normal people who just. I mean, I know I'm math, but outside of a normal person. And I was like, well, you guys are willing to cost yourself millions and in some cases billions of dollars, or potentially billions of dollars, just to push an ideology that you kind of only believe because you're supposed to. That's mind-boggling to me.
Well, I mean, because this town, the deepest purpose of this town is to control the narrative for humanity. That's its deepest purpose. It's creating narratives about who the good guys and the bad guys are, what the right politics are. It's created a narrative on gender issues in the last, few years, and it's trying to make the whole planet believe certain things. And
why?
It comes out of the philosophy of sort of the powers that be currently, right? And that has evolved over time. It's generational. If again, using the example that always gets me in trouble, I already see some people grumbling about it in the chat, whatever. So, the example of the Middle East, right? There's a wonderful book called An Empire of Their Own, which is a story of the founding of Hollywood by a Jewish writer about sort of the Jewish origins of Hollywood, which talks about, this was the Hollywood was founded largely by essentially shoe salesmen from Brooklyn who had been sort of pushed out of, they weren't allowed into New York haughty-taught society, the opera and all that, right? And so they ended up creating vaudeville, and they ended up coming to Hollywood, right? And these people, their goal, we're talking about the Louis Mayers and all those guys. Their goal was very simple. As shoe salesmen who suddenly decided, let's make movies, their goal was to give the audience what it wanted and not to create any drama. They were audience-oriented when Hollywood was founded, right? So they're like, most of these guys were probably, secular atheists like everybody I work with in town, but they're like, audience wants Bible stories, we're going to give them. Turn Command was a silent film, right? Right. 1920s, right? Yeah. So we're going to give them, going to give them Jesus movies, and we're going to give them what they want, right? And the book talks about how in the 1930s and 40s, the sort of European Zionist movement came to Los Angeles and attempted to raise money for let's have Jewish immigration to Palestine, right? And that was Louis Mayer and all those guys kicked them out. They wouldn't let them organize here.
Wow.
They said, we don't want, and this is fascinating because we don't want any, the studio heads were like, we don't want no drama with the Middle East. We want to sell movies to these Arab countries. Egypt is a big market for us, right? We are not interested. At the time, Palestine was a market. They had a really nice theater in Jaffa. And so we're not interested in any of this stuff, right? And they kicked these guys out of LA. Right? They said, we're not going to let you organize. We're not, because we just want to make money and give the market what it wants. We're not interested in any drama in the Middle East. That changed a couple of generations later, and suddenly it became ideological for generations after that. Certainly after 1967, the generation that started in the 70s, and they're still the guys in control, right? The guy we're talking about. The ending, what we're seeing is the end of that generation, sort of that generation that started with young Spielberg was a young man, right? That 70s generation. And that generation is coming to its final ending point with all the drama that's happened at Lucasfilm with Kathleen Kennedy, who was from that generation, right? So we're seeing the end of a generation, but that generation, the 70s onward, had its own politics. And now it is, those politics have sort of reached the place where they're overripe and they're spoiled and they're being shoved still. So we're at the end of a generation, just like the 70s was the end of this of the first generation. The first generation of Hollywood was essentially 1930s. When we went into talkies, when we went off into modern film from silence, 1930s to 1970s, about 40 years, right? So the second generation is the same, about 40 years, 70s into 2010s is when we see Lucasfilm acting as crazy as it does. And so now we're seeing the beginning of the third generation. It's just starting.
I see.
That's really interesting. Sorry, go
I
ahead.
want to talk to you. There's a lot to talk about, but I'm sorry to chat that I missed so much, but I do want to get the super chat. Shout out to Go, aka Brandon the Infinite Wolf. He just says awesome to see Kamran Pasha on the show, and he misses you on Twitter. Take care.
I miss me on Twitter too, but guys, I think I'm done.
I miss the beautiful girls. I'm not gonna lie.
I miss posting them, but I think I'm done. Both because it is a hostile place, and also I actually have stuff I'm working on. Like people always say, "Man, you're on Twitter, got nothing." No, I actually am developing shows and pitching. I did a major pitch this morning. I got other stuff going on. Just finished a pilot. I'm like, actually, I gotta focus on that. So I think I'm gonna be off Twitter. I'm happy to continue doing this stuff, but I think Twitter is a pretty destructive place.
So what's your philosophy on working in Hollywood? Because like, I mean, I didn't have like a career to leave. Like it never clicked. I never really did the right things. I was never in like the rooms or the real conversation. I was always just begging for scraps. And occasionally I'd get a few $100 to act for a day. But that was, basically I was
better than a lot of people, brother.
Ooh, yeah.
I know people working 10 years this town don't even got that.
Yeah, it's wild. It's a wild thing. But I think, I left for a lot of reasons, personal reasons, as far as like I wasn't really enjoying just never working and stuff like that. But philosophically, I was kind of like, I don't really want to spend all this money, all this time, all this effort to ultimately make propaganda that I'm really not even that interested in, and to have to conform to this town that like I don't even feel like I'm a part of. So it's like, what's your philosophy as far as like working in Hollywood and moving forward, like from here?
Well, my philosophy is very simple. This is what I'm supposed to do with my life. I've discovered I'm really good at this, and it's very easy for me, right? And it's something I really enjoy. That doesn't mean the process of getting work is easy. The process of writing, and that's something very natural for me, which I discovered. It's what I'm meant to do, right? And now that I found it, and I'm not 20 years old anymore. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, as long as I'm able to, right? And so my philosophy is, I've been sent here like a spiritual person. I believe I've survived here 20 years with adversaries shutting me down somehow because I have some kind of purpose, right? So I got to believe that whatever stories I have to tell are part of a bigger sort of cosmic plan, that because these stories ain't being told, right? The stories that I want to tell and I have told are stories that the town resists for its own reasons. And they're stories that I think are of value to humanity. So I got to keep plugging away, because every time I want to give up, every time I want to quit and, move back to the East Coast where, my sisters are or whatever, and start over, maybe become a professor or whatever, every time that becomes like, all right, it's not working out, there's a new break. Literally often at the moment, I'm like, gotta start looking for a new kind of field. The break comes and a new job comes, a new project comes. It's happened a dozen times when I'm about to give up, my next break comes. So I feel like I'm being guided to do this. And I got to flow with it. So
word. Yeah, no, I respect that 100%. I've heard that similar thing before, and I noticed it didn't happen to me.
Because you have another purpose. You have another purpose, right? And
right.
So I had other purposes that didn't work out. I was a journalist for a while. I really loved that, right? I could have had a very fulfilling life as a journalist. Then I went to law school and business school and worked as a lawyer. Didn't like that at all. I lasted maybe 18 months before, thank God, I got into screenwriting, right? So not every purpose we think we have is what we're supposed to do.
Right. Yeah. That's very interesting, man. You're like I really like your mind and like the spiritual stuff that you talk about. Like I saw on Unsafe Space, it was an episode with you, Carrie. Yeah, and then I think the two dudes were like atheists or whatever, and like that.
Yeah, there was the two gentlemen. That one of them was an actor, pretty well-known actor, and then both of them were like sort of ganging up. And I love those guys, but they're all pretty aggressive atheists, and we're all on the thing because we're all sort of libertarian, freedom-minded people. Carrie's a sort of born-again Christian now, right? She's found Christ, and it's been very important to her. And so Carrie and I connect as religious people, and we got these two buddies of ours, who aren't religious, right?
Yeah.
And we had a profound conversation about that, because often I feel, especially people who call themselves atheists, I'm like, well, what do you mean by that? I mean, and you actually get down to it. They're actually not materialists. There's a materialist philosophy that life is, not actually real, that consciousness is just a byproduct of random electrons, that there's no, that our feelings of love, emotion, art is all just an illusion. That's a philosophy people say with their lips. I've never met anybody who believes that.
No.
No. I don't think
I recently heard.
Please, Vitch, go ahead.
No, I recently heard an analogy to what this man's interpretation of atheists. He said atheists are a lot like people with a father that they're estranged from, saying they don't have a dad. in that they're angry at whatever religion is or whatever religious experience. Some had a really negative experience with a religious person at one point, and they're channeling that anger. But if you really talk to them, because once you say you're spiritual, now then what do you mean you're an atheist?
Right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I believe in the universe. Yeah, that's what I believe in.
I think are atheists are like serial killers, right? You know, because if you really believe that our consciousness isn't real, right? It's just a byproduct of random electrons, and that there is no morality. It's because we're just animals living in a world that's randomly created. Do whatever the hell you want. They can get away.
Why would you even care? Why would you even have the feeling to?
You're gonna end up the same place, which is nothingness, right?
Which is nothing. It doesn't exist, right? Yeah, I know.
When you die, you're not even gonna remember anything. There's no consciousness. So do whatever you can.
Yeah, whatever.
You're gonna end up the same place. That's why nobody except a completely mentally ill, psychopathic killer believes that.
Yeah, and I think when you talk to a lot of atheists, it's interesting. Like they have faith in their atheism.
Well, it is a religion. I mean, because it's a belief statement.
It is. And you hear them, like the way they talk about it. It's like it's like, well, there's nothing to prove it. It's like there's nothing to disprove it. Like it's just like all this stuff.
That's not science. I mean, stating there. I mean, again,
but like, you know what I mean? But they're not. They're just. It's bullshit. Like it's their belief system that they have faith in.
It's like this entire universe with all of its wonder and its perfect harmony and everything just randomly came about. Okay, that's a belief system. There's no reason to believe that that's true.
Right.
That's, for me, it's less likely that is true than there is a conscious mind behind this. That's more likely than this is all random and it just works perfectly. That's less likely to be.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, if you believe in evolution, like a lot of theists are like, or atheists are like, evolution. It's like, okay, fine, evolution.
Yeah,
but it's like, maybe if something evolves over billions of years, though, like it becomes like free of its body and becomes a super powerful mind or something across the universe. Who knows? I'm just saying, like the idea that you have all the fucking answers because you thought about it for a little bit.
That's the materialist philosophy, which is that only what matter that I can sense with my five senses can be real. Mm-hmm. Dogs can hear things you can't hear, man. Cockroaches. What are you talking about?
That's a good point. Yeah, I like
Real
that
quick
point.
Chat. I see Gogo who's sent the super chat. Just sent the only super chat so far. He's leaving. So peace out, Gogo. And hello, Snorter Poopers Q Bird.
Hello,
our favorite polar bear. Whose his chats are not coming up because everything's crashing. There you go. Hello, Snort Poopers. And hello, Richard.
Yeah, we could say hello to the chat for a little bit. We kind of been ignoring them.
Yeah, the chat. I appreciate it.
I see there's some lovely ladies in the chat too. It's not just a sausage fest. I'm seeing some
Islington girl.
Everyone, Islington girl. Hail.
I think she was here at one point. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm making her up. Sometimes it is a sausage fest.
Yeah.
And Sentient Dildo, who's our favorite troll, I believe at one point. I
know he's a little bit of a troll. Is that his shtick, or is it like a joke?
It's his joke. Like he's just having fun.
Okay,
he just likes,
because I've been on things where people attack me personally in the chat, and I've learned to just ignore it. He's not really attacking me personally; he's just making comments. I was like, "Is this what's his name?"
No, he's just salty. He's just a sarcastic.
He's arguing with stream elements. He's not to be taken seriously.
Yeah, I'm salty too, and I'm from the East Coast side, so this kind of like harsh like sense of humor. So I basically kind of gravitate towards that. Like people come to me, like it's like so I say shit, like I catch a lot of shit, and that's basically what Sentient Dildo's entire thing's about. Like for instance, he says, "Matt, I'm not sure the porn industry is considered Hollywood."
Yeah.
So,
I will say this: I living in LA, I've met a few people in the adult industry, and they're all very nice people.
Yes, I've had the same experience.
Normal people. They're more normal than the Hollywood people I interact with.
That's interesting. I did
decent human beings. Everyone that I've ever met.
I did date a girl who
busts a nut every
day.
You
dated a porn star? I want to hear that. I want to get this story now. I want to hear
this. Normal's not how I would have described her. No, she was actually like a lot of emotional
socializing, and then there's like what's going on in private life.
No, but from a social point of view, just like meeting and hanging out with them, I find them to be way more pleasant, way easier to deal with.
Because they're not uptight about anything. I mean, they put everything out there. They have no illusions. They have no Hollywood. We're talking about is everyone's trying to create a fake image. Mm-hmm. These people, the only thing fake is their stage name. Everything else is out there.
That's a good point. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. No, she was she had some issues, but
I'm not saying in personal life they tend to be as complicated as the actresses I've dated, right?
Yeah.
So whatever.
Yeah. Where are you from originally, Cameron?
Born in Pakistan, came to Brooklyn, New York when I was 3 years old, and grew up in Brooklyn and moved to LA 20 years ago. So,
Oh, no shit. I didn't know you lived in Brooklyn.
Yeah,
Right on.
A lot of filmmakers come out of Brooklyn. It's a very creative environment.
Yeah.
A lot of different ethnicities thrown together. I mean, it's what Hollywood pretends to be. Like, I mean, I went to high school. My classmates were Puerto Rican, Italian, African American, and Jewish, right? And they're all people in the neighborhood. And you grow and you learn from each other. That's what Hollywood pretends to be. That's what Brooklyn is.
There was a podcast for a while. They just stopped it for whatever reason, but it's called the History Hyenas. Have you ever heard of Chris DiStefano or Giannis Pappas?
Yeah, I actually have.
Yeah. And they're both out of Brooklyn. Yeah, they're both out of Brooklyn or Queens and Brooklyn, that area. But they're hilarious. And you hear guys like from that kind of neighborhood where it is genuinely like culturally rich. Like they have no time for any of this bullshit.
Yeah, because when you hang out in a place like Brooklyn, where your next door neighbor is a Hasidic Jew and the guy over there is a Puerto Rican kid or a Dominican kid, like whose parents are from like the Dominican Republic, right? Just showed up, right? You don't have time for any nonsense, man. You just see people.
Yeah.
And you understand they're different. The Hasidic people are doing their thing, and the Dominican kid's doing his thing, but you're all in the same school together. So you got to deal with each other.
When you're actually exposed to different cultures and then you actually have a comfort with it instead of like a stance on it.
Yeah.
I mean, exactly. Well, there's nothing you have when you're living it. You don't have to talk about it. Hollywood isn't living it. As you know from LA, this is the most segregated city I've ever been in, man. I live in Santa Monica. If I see an African American dude in the street, I'm like, hey, man. And it's the first time I've seen an African American dude here in like 2 weeks, right? I mean, it's this is a segregated city.
100%. Like that's the thing I always say. And I wrote a short play or a short film about that. It was just sort of a one line, but I had the girl like was in the middle of like this argument with this guy that was hitting on her, and she just kind of like said, "I'm not uptight. I'm conservative," and just like had this like it was like a revelation, just sort of like this moment where she's like, "Oh, but no, I'm not." Like it was just like, and that's. Of these people that I met out in Hollywood, like they are very conservative, like just not in like the traditional political sense, but they're very
self-righteous.
Yeah, they're self-righteous,
and they are they're conservative in the way we think of the in 1950s, creating an image for the neighborhood, for the neighbors. Yes. That's how they're conservative.
Yes,
right? You got to make everybody believe you're June Cleaver when you're actually hosting like gangbang parties, whatever. But you can't let people know. About that,
obviously, that part. But they're very exclusive, like with who they.
How else are people going to get roles?
What's that?
That's how else are people going to get roles if there's no gangbang party?
I guess that's
too. But that's another part of this town is the absolute horrific dark side of this town. Going back to the silent film, man. There's the dark side of Me Too is the casting couch and prostitution for roles. That's been going on since 1910. It's going on today without revealing names. The producer was telling me about a major actor/actress, I won't even reveal the gender, who was who had recently banged a friend of theirs, right, to get the role. That was like a few days ago. I mean, the producer knows about it because a friend told him, because it's normal. It's still normal.
Yeah.
I mean, that's normal.
It's an interesting dynamic because there's just so much power worship in that town that it's just these people kind of live like untouched, like these little kings, you know what I mean? And they just like, they can just crush you if they want. And
they can crush you. I mean, that's the thing people don't understand. One of the dumb fights I got into, I got kicked off of Twitter because some lawyers didn't like what I was posting. Some lawyers that were like working for the social media guys, didn't like what I was posting. They came after me, and then, but yeah, being a former lawyer myself, I was like, I don't have any respect for you clowns. I was you guys, right? I know you guys, right? So I went. Lawyers don't like having anybody mock their profession. I'm like, buddy, I was one of you, right? Worked one of the biggest law firms in LA, in New York. So let's not screw around. But whatever. but the thing that I was trying to point out to them is that, you guys don't scare me because I've worked with some of the scariest people in town. People don't understand that. So one of these dumb lawyers attacked me. He's like, hey, man, my client's like a multiple murderer, right? You think I'm afraid? I was like, your client is a killer behind bars who you meet with in a room with guards. So you're safe. My people I've worked with are people that can have your brake lines cut and killed, and the LAPD, will cover that up for them, and maybe they had that done. And so I'm like, you don't understand what you're dealing with. I'm actually working with mobsters. You're working with guys that are in handcuffs. I'm working with people that they don't like what you're doing. The couple of phone calls Your life can be ruined or ended. And that sounds crazy, but I'll give you a story. You guys want a story? I'll give you a story.
Love a story, Cameron.
There are people in the chat making eyes wide shut references earlier, so that
yeah,
talking about Kubrick. So it doesn't sound crazy. Yeah,
and God bless him, Stanley Kubrick passed away mysteriously right after making that movie, right?
What a coincidence.
Whatever.
Bad timing, I guess.
Nobody knows.
It's one of those movies you're like, there's no reason to make this movie. Why are you making this movie? But he made this movie, and suddenly, boom, he's gone. So whatever. Yeah. But this is a major producer I'm working with who has multiple Oscar nominations, right? One of the biggest players in town. So his partner told me this story because this guy's a nice guy, but he's one of these guys that can really mess up your career if you crossed him, right? And he told me, oh, he's not the most dangerous guy in this town. His producing partner was like, he's not the most dangerous guy in this town. Let me tell you a story of that one time. This producer, Oscar-nominated producer, was working on a project, and there was an actor they wanted who had already committed to a deal with one of a big project that was championed by one of the studio heads, right? And so he basically had to talk with that actor. Maybe you can get out of that project and come to mine instead, right? Because that thing's like it's not look like it's moving, right? He gets a phone call from the studio head, calls him and says, "I hear you're trying to steal my actor. Let me explain something to you. You don't fuck with me. You fuck with me, I'm going to have your brake lines cut and you're going to die." Right. And that wasn't the hyperbole threat of people on Twitter or random big shot lawyers saying, "I want to ruin your life." It's a guy saying, "Look, I know, I got Mossad agents working for me. We'll take care of this. You don't fuck with my actor." And he hung up. He said, the producer walked out. He said, "It's the only time I've ever seen my partner," literally said, "I for the first time understood the idea of having the blood drain from your face." He said he was pale as a ghost. He said, "Yeah, we're done. No more communication with that actor." Because he's like, that studio head's going to have me killed. Right?
Holy shit.
People don't understand. That's the world we live in. And if you go read old books like Hollywood Babylon that tell the stories of, like Clark Gable and all those scandals from the 30s and 40s, this is not new. This is like I'm revealing some shocking thing. It's like, oh yeah, they used to kill people in the 30s and they stopped doing it now.
Yeah, Marilyn Monroe was a very suspicious. Like, how did she swallow the barbiturates?
I absolutely believe. I'm a
Marilyn Monroe
fan, and she was absolutely killed, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, Cameron.
By the way, allegedly, I would like to wake up tomorrow. My brake lines are damn near cut on their own, so you're like,
I just stating my belief.
Beliefs and opinions. Even though I believe
my beliefs and opinions, and yes, I don't believe Ms. Monroe overdosed. I don't believe that.
So this is an interesting thing because I was like, now I'm like, I had this. Okay, so the book Easy Riders and Raging Bulls.
Sure, yeah, it's a good book.
Yeah, I thought so too, but I also thought that the writer really felt like he had like an axe to grind because he wrote the other one like a few years later about like the 90s cinema stuff like that, like the rise of independent.
I didn't read that book. So was there a marked difference in that one?
Not in tone, like it's just kind of the same. It's just detailing like Redford and Tarantino and their, but like to me after a while I'm like, this kind of feels like a hit piece. Like it just feels like is every single person involved a piece of shit? Like how could they never did anything nice ever? And I'm like, well, now I'm like, oh, maybe actually they are. I don't know. What's like reading those books? Because it's like
people are pieces of shit when they feel they need to achieve something. Otherwise, they're perfectly nice people. There's a few people that are just pieces of shit all the time, right? And they have, they just want to show you their power. And one of them recently got into a lot of drama over that. Very famous producer who was infamous, I've known for 20 years. That you walk in, he doesn't like you, throws a stapler at your head, right? Whatever. And so, but those are the guys that just want to, show off their balls or whatever. Most of these guys are perfectly nice people until you are a problem for them in some way, and then they'll do. This is a mafia. They'll do what needs to be done, and they'll do as whatever they're capable of doing within their power structure. Harvey Weinstein wasn't very powerful. Harvey Weinstein, when his accusers came after him, remember, he hired like Black Cube is a famous sort of, it's like former Mossad, as if anyone's former Mossad, like former CIA. You're not former, but it's a bunch of former Mossad guys. Black Cube, which is a private detective agency in Los Angeles, is a bunch of former Mossad people, and he hired them to sort of get dirt on his accusers. That's a mid-level move. There's people in this town that we all know, or at least rumors-wise, I haven't witnessed them do it myself, but we all know that they're doing terrible things, including terrible things to children, right? Anybody who's witnessed that, who speaks up, will be killed. That's high-level move. Harvey Weinstein wasn't high-level. That's why he's in jail. The people who are doing the really horrific crimes, they're going to go to jail. You try to talk about that. I mean, it is like the CIA. It's hard for people to believe that this is real until you enter into this world and you realize, hey, this is kind of real.
That's wild, man.
But you know what I would say though?
The stories, right? They're real.
Yeah.
The past 5 years, that's become a lot more believable. Like if you would have told me this in 2010, I'd be like, whoa, man, this is crazy. But now, and even like I tried to do music a while ago, and I remember having a friend who said certain rappers basically propositioned him. He was already signed, but if he wanted to go further, it was like, hey,
I did business with him. I get it.
Yeah.
So
I tell you, I got this. It's a little more smoke and gun. I'm not gonna mention the guy's name, but it's like,
we don't need to get there over.
But
again, we want to wake up.
But let's just say, one of the most powerful agencies in the history of Hollywood. I worked a party at his house or her house, whomever this person was, and there was a picture there with them at the CIA. Why? Why on earth would that be? It's like it's like.
Well, I mean, I know for a fact
the work picture
more about that kind of stuff than I'm interested in talking about publicly. But there's a great, because if you look at my IMDb, I've worked on a lot of shows like Sleeper Cell, like Nikita, and all these shows that deal with spies. I've worked with Oliver Stone. Let's just say that I know more about that than it's safe for me to talk about. But when you can, there's a wonderful book called The CIA in Hollywood, which is by a professor. She's a professor at the University of Texas who's done a historical study of the intelligence agency's influence in Hollywood, going back to the OSS in World War II. I mean, like Casablanca was.
They started Hollywood. I mean, they were a huge part of it from the beginning.
Well, I mean, our modern intelligence is really something from World War II, right? The OSS, there was, before there was just gangsters running Hollywood, and then World War II, the OSS gets involved because they want to, the Casablanca is actually one of the best movies ever made, is essentially a propaganda piece because America wasn't in World War II, people didn't want to get involved, and Casablanca was essentially a propaganda piece being pushed by the OSS to get Americans to feel patriotically involved in the war, and the Japanese sort of, events that happened got us into the war, but you had to get people public opinion there. So and then after that, that's in the OSS. That's before CIA, and the CIA in 1947 comes into being. By the time of the 30s and 40s, movies have become a global phenomenon that influence the world, how it sees things. It's natural for anybody who wants to influence public opinion to control it. It's just natural.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. All right.
One stupid CIA agent if you didn't control Hollywood. Why? This is like a gold mine. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's right. True. Yeah. Fuck.
When you got these kinds of characters, when you got all kinds of files on all their private activities, you got more than enough leverage on all these characters, right?
So that's interesting. So like, how can you, as you, Cameron, you being a writer, you being a showrunner, and all this stuff, how do you manage to? Do you work like with it? Do you just say do you give them just enough so that you get to keep doing your thing, or are you uncompromising about how much influence comes into your shows, or how do you live and work in an industry that, like, as you're describing, is this like horror show?
Well, most people will just absolutely go along with whatever the power structure is, and they have easier journeys than I do, right? The ones who actually become the active mouthpieces for propaganda, whether it's intelligence agency propaganda, whether it's political party propaganda, or whether it's some weird occult secret society that wants to program people propaganda. If you're like, yeah, man, I'll do that, you go up pretty fast, right? If you're like, you come across here like, okay, yeah, sure, boss, I'll do it. But you're like, then you're sort of mid-level and you do okay. And if you're like me, you hold to your principles, which creates drama in your life.
Yeah. Just Another Red Shirt has a great point. And this is something I've said, and I can't even reference. The intelligence agencies using Hollywood might explain Hollywood accounting. Yeah, there's a lot of money.
Profound insight, because Hollywood accounting is a black hole. No one understands it in the same way that intelligence budgets are a black hole. They're the same thing.
Yeah, there's I heard an estimate of the actual intelligence budget, and it's so much more than we spend as a country. It's like 10 times, like literally 10 times what we think we spend as a country just on television.
Do you remember, most people don't remember this, but on September 10th, 2001, the day before September 11th, Donald Rumsfeld did, you can see it on YouTube, it's there. Donald Rumsfeld did a press conference where he announced that something like $2 trillion was missing from the Pentagon's budget. And didn't know what happened.
I do remember that. Now that you mentioned
and then the next day, you have September 11th, and all the people in the accounting department that were actually looking into that. 24 hours later, they're all dead, right?
Yes, I did know that.
$2 trillion goes missing. What? Wow.
It's funny how that happens.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, the thing is, I just came to this town. I came to this town to make movies, TV shows, and hang out with pretty girls. That's why I came to town. And then I got thrown in the middle of this crap.
Yeah. No,
So
I mean, that was.
I want to go back to the innocent person I was.
Honest to God, dude, that was the whole thing. I was like, I like The Matrix. I like Star Wars. You know what I mean? I want to go have fun and make movies and be an actor, and and then it's just you what it is, what your life is. It's even just the day-to-day life, not even this nefarious grand stuff. It's just like the uncomfortable
grind of this. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Rogan on that interview with
tell me more about this Rogan thing. What did he say?
Oh yeah.
Do you want to read the article, Vitch? We can just
go through that because I want to.
But I do have one. I actually have it
Okay.
up. Right. But before we get into it, just one question that I've been wondering: is there any way, like, out of it? What I mean is there any way for independent Hollywood to even be a thing with people this powerful? Like, I mean, obviously, I don't think anything could be as big as Hollywood is, but because I feel like we'll never get good storytelling if it's left up to Hollywood. They're incapable of doing it now. And so, is it possible for I'm not sure if you're familiar with Comicsgate, but a similar thing that happened with films where you have this crowd-funded thing and this independent movement of film? Could that even be a thing with the current Hollywood? And then we can get into the Rogan thing. That's
the economics of a comic book are very different than the economics of a feature film.
Very true.
And so the problem, I mean, I've seen some of these, like, people that are crowdfunding comic books, and they're raising $100,000, $300,000, even $600,000. I've seen, right? God bless them, right? That's nothing. I mean, you can't even make a small short. You can maybe make a short film with that if you used a union crew, right? And you actually paid union rates. And so, TV shows, small crappy TV shows have a budget of $2 million an episode, right? And 10 episodes like at $20 million, right? And then that's a TV show. And you can't. It's almost impossible to independently finance a TV show because it's such a locked-in structure of distribution in TV. There is some ability to finance independently movies because it's a different kind of distribution system with the theaters and YouTube and other stuff, right? So there is a way to do that. Very few people have the resources to do it. Those that have the resources to do it tend to be morons. I've come across my experience. I mean, I've come across this standard Saudi prince jackass, right? Who's like, he comes into town, and he's like throwing around his money and this Lamborghini at the end, and he's like, I meet you at the parties and I want to be a movie producer, and his dad is a Saudi prince and he could write a check for $100 million, right? But all those guys are scumbags. They're the dumbest people on earth, right? And I mean, every one of those guys. And so when you meet those guys, they, people attract what's like them. So whenever you meet these clowns at a party, the Saudi prince is always surrounded by like the sleaziest, garbage, fraudster person. Like there's a crowd of the most fraudulent people in Hollywood always surround those people like in Peanuts, you got Pigpen is surrounded by a cloud of like dirt, right? That Saudi prince is surrounded by this cloud of fraud because they themselves are like these guys who are frauds basically. Their great grandfather made a deal with the British for oil and shit, and they couldn't read or write, and suddenly they're billionaires, right? So those clowns, and I'm not there. I mean, I've met with a dozen of these guys over 20 years, and they each lead to nightmares. I mean, I just had one such incident where I walked away from a Saudi project 3 months ago that would have been millions of dollars, actually millions of dollars if I did it. But I hated these people so much, and what they wanted me to do was reprehensible to me as a Muslim. They wanted me to do a historical project that I felt was going to disrespect some Islamic figures, and I was so horrified. I said, guys, I can't do this. They're like, what, you're going to walk away from money? I was like, yeah, I'm not going to disrespect my religion, which in theory you share, but you don't. That was 3 months ago, and it was literally like, here's a few $1 million. You want to do this? I said, no, I don't actually want to do that. I'll take the millions of bucks, but I don't want to do that. So this is what we want to do. So those characters. So those characters are still out there, and they're making bad stuff, or they never make anything. Their money goes to fraudsters and it vanishes.
Yeah.
Then there's a few people like Mel Gibson, and we can argue. And Mel Gibson is a complex person. He's got some real issues that he needs to deal with, but he's a brilliant filmmaker. Yeah. And he made The Passion of the Christ, which the town didn't want to do. Right? They thought they shut it down, and he financed it from a personal checkbook of $30 million, and the movie made $1 billion worldwide, of which a substantial portion of that ended up in his pocket, right? And then when he did that, he went from being persona non gratis to being everyone in this town loved him again, right? Because they wanted to take back control of that revenue stream. And so you got a few people like that have the ability to do it, but then but again, they got their demons. I mean, how much of that is Mel Gibson going to be able to do? Right? He's got his own personal demons, which the town can use to control you.
Mm-hmm. Well, what about Ben Shapiro? Like he's got his thing with like Gina Carano over the Daily Wire. Like,
I love Gina Carano. I don't like Mr. Shapiro for personal reasons. Right? I don't like his policies on a lot of stuff. But on a practical level, Miss Carano's wonderful, right? Yeah. And she's going to succeed with or without that guy. She doesn't need that guy. But Shapiro, I've never believed in this Daily Wire thing, and I've been very vocal about it because, he's not going to get credible people. Gina Carano.
That's what I said.
Person. I mean, even Mel Gibson's not going to be the one associated with this guy, right? Gina doesn't care what anybody thinks, so she's going to do whatever she wants, and she doesn't need him. Whereas other people will be like, I don't want to be associated. I'm not going to
cross the line. Yeah.
I'm not being associated because they make one movie with Ben Shapiro and then they don't make another movie ever again for the rest of their lives. Yeah. So he might be a good crews, but crews tend to be a little more conservative than actors, as you know, right? They're salt of the earth people, right? They don't have time for nonsense. But the movie isn't. You have the crew. God bless them. They're not on camera, and you get people to actually. It's not because there's. As I have friends who are devout Christians in this town who are always grumbling about the Christian market. Aside from Mel Gibson making, Passion of the Christ, most of it is direct to DVD garbage.
It's so bad and on the nose. It makes Hallmark look like fucking Fellini. It's just you can't believe how bad they are.
Yeah, and it's insulting to people of faith. Like I, as a believer, watch this. I'm not a Christian. I'm like, what is this crap? It's degrading because the people that are least sophisticated in Hollywood are the ones that are going to do that, right? The sophisticated people are like, I don't want to be associated with Christianity. I'm out with that, right? They don't want Tom Hanks in those movies, right? And so,
and they're bad. Like they're just so bad. They're misguided. It's ham-fisted. It's like it reads like someone's first screenplay in college. It's just like,
exactly. It's always preachy weirdo stuff. It's like, I was like, Jesus was a more effective preacher than this. What is this crap? Yeah, he's more convincing than this script.
So, it's like that King of the Hill joke where it's like you're not making Christianity better, you're making rock worse. It's like with Christian rock, it's like you're not making movies better. Yeah.
So, but that's the problem. And so no, that I don't believe that there will ever be any kind of contender to Hollywood. I think there will be a few good independent things made. But they will remain outliers just because of the economics of the system. That doesn't mean good stuff won't be made within the system. I'm still there, and I haven't given up my principles. You know, right now I've got a project which I'm going out with, which I will keep silent because I've tended to talk about things and not make them happen. But I'm very proud of it. It's a project I've developed for several years, and I'm very hopeful. I have major producers, major director attached. Doesn't mean it will sell. Right. I don't know, but I got a shot. And that doesn't work. I'll try something else because that's all I can ever do. I keep trying and trying and trying. And eventually I will outsmart this town. All you need is one break. And then the town, just like Gibson, he outsmarted them. And then they all came kissing his ass.
Yeah. Yeah. They were nominated for an Oscar recently.
Yeah. And remember, he was a hated guy in this town. He was blackballed.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. I mean, those are some pretty bad videos. They did not do him any favors.
Yeah. Look, I mean, like I said, he's got his issues. I'm not defending him. In Vino Veritas, when you're drunk, your true nature is revealed. I don't drink. If I got drunk, I hope I wouldn't say crazy things like that. I don't think that's in my character, but it's in his character. He's just hiding it, right? So,
yeah. Or you have control over it. I mean, we're all. The makeup of a human being is like pretty wild. So it's like,
we all got like stuff and whatever.
Yeah. Or it's like that rage instinct you have that you don't act out on when you're sober. You act on it when you're drunk. So it's like, is that the truth? I don't know if that's the truth. I mean, it's like you just.
Well, it's the truth of your id. It's the truth of your id, right? It's the truth of the lowest part of your character. Yeah.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
So whatever. So I hope I hope it's not too depressing, but there is still hope. It's just the hope of a rival system. I don't think that's ever going to happen.
I
don't
guess-
think a rival, even like, A-list Hollywood and C-list rival. I don't think anything's going to come close to that. So that's
I'm just hoping for RC Cola. I'm not looking for Pepsi. I'll be happy with RC Cola. Literally, I'll be happy with yes, it's way off, but at least we still get a good John Wick movie every time. You know what I mean? If we can we get an RC Cola, or is it just like store brand, bro? That's it.
I mean, it's gonna be like individual one-shot RC Colas,
Yeah,
it won't be a brand.
my thing would be, because there's just so many independent like technicians and experts that you need at so many levels to just even get something watchable, let alone good. So the idea that independently outside of the talent pool, you're gonna somehow have a brilliant colorist and a brilliant writer and a brilliant director, and it's all gonna be edited the way it's like. I mean, the
reality is the best people in this town have come up through a system. They've been trained by it. They've been mentored by it, and they're not interested in trading that system for something else and putting themselves to be targets of this town.
And you can see they get frustrated when people like that's why they hate Joe Rogan, because he's like, he did his own thing. He's completely outside of the system. And they're like, hey, I had to conform and be bullshit and kiss all these Hollywood ass. How come he doesn't have to? They resent him, like, and they do, like, they resent people who don't have to do.
But even he has his limits. I've heard this. It's a rumor. I don't know if it's true, but I heard a rumor. It's a Hollywood rumor. I heard this in Hollywood that allegedly, and please, Mr. Rogan's publicist, you can correct me. It's just
allegedly.
Do not sue somebody us. Said to me, I don't know this is true, but a rumor is that Joe Rogan was allegedly supposed to be putting on, some moon landing deniers, like members of certain astronauts' families who claim they had evidence. I believe the moon landings happened, but let's say they claim they have evidence that these people didn't land on the moon, and that they have family evidence of that. And so apparently the story recently I heard that Joe was going to put these guys on the air, and his backer said, "No way, Jose, we're not going to let you do that."
Wow,
he has his limits, right? I don't know if that's true, but I heard it in Hollywood, so I heard it.
I wonder if that's a Spotify thing. And before getting into Joe Rogan, apparently there's a Cripple Cola made by the Crips. Thank you for that, Central Joe. I did not know.
They're business people.
They are business, and that's just if you need a front.
Apparently, Citibank was like the mob, so it's like maybe they're trying to go legit.
All businesses are started by mobs, and then who eventually go legit. I mean, that's all countries are started by mobs that go legit. I mean, I'm a big American patriot, and George Washington was a rebel. Right, he was a rebel, and most of the country wasn't with him at the time. And when he wins, he's essentially an insurgent leader, and everyone's like, "I don't know about this, George." And then he wins, and suddenly he's like, Mr. President,
a legend. Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay, well, apparently the chat thinks the moon landing is Kubrick's.
Well, I am of the belief the moon landing is real for a very simple thing, right? I can believe because I'm actually a huge fan of Richard Nixon. I think he's one of the most complex, fascinating figures in history. So I can believe Richard Nixon would fake one moon landing to beat the Soviets. I can believe that, right?
I believe that too.
Yeah. They had 6 moon landings.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would believe one.
That doesn't make sense. One is all you need. One is all you don't need to go there 6 times, and each one gets more complex. By the 6th one, they're driving a rover on the moon, right, at like 60 miles an hour. You don't need to do any of that. And
I'd believe a little fake it till you make it, though. I'd buy.
That's what my theory was. Like, we were there, but not at the time.
I heard that theory once. I heard the theory that Armstrong didn't land, but like Apollo 14 or 15, they actually did. I was like, could you imagine being the astronaut Apollo 14 that's the first human being to walk on the moon, and you got to pretend you're like the 7th? Come on, man.
Yeah, that would suck.
I mean, what kind of crap is that? Right? You got to pretend. You got Armstrong who's sitting out of a movie studio, who's getting all the accolades in history as the first man who comes up with, the one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind, and you're the guy who does it, and you can't admit it.
You can't even get
that. It's not gonna happen.
You don't get any of the free food or the astronaut pussy. Nothing.
Yeah, the astronaut ass. Those astronaut bitches are crazy.
I'm pretty sure we landed. Whether we have all the information about it, because I'm a big believer in aliens and UFOs, whether we have all the information of what they saw there is unknown. There's a moment in the official moon landing of the first moon landing where Armstrong went off the plan. He, if you watch the video, and I've watched the video many times, he goes off camera. He has assignments of what he's supposed to be doing, right? And you see Buzz Aldrin, Buzz Aldrin doing his thing, and Armstrong just walks off camera. And he went off camera for 20 minutes, and he went to a crater, and wasn't part of the official what they were supposed to be doing. 20 minutes, he went to this crater, and he shut off his radio. And he just kept, and we don't know why he did that.
And then suddenly everyone had this ringing in their ears and they didn't know where it was coming from.
Well, the UFO conspiracy will say that he saw a UFO land on the other side of the crater and he went to check it out, right? And he was told, shut off your radio and go to private channel, right? And then it took off and he went back. He's like, all right, we're going to deal with what we got to do. It. Did that happen? I don't know. I think that's more likely than that we didn't land.
I'd like to see a movie about that. That sounds like a cool movie. I believe that happened? I mean, who knows? I don't know. I mean, I liked Kubrick's theory that like there would be that kind of beacon on the moon that would be, you know, the first indication our species had evolved, you know, off the planet. So it would be something that they would want to know about. Like, that's interesting.
The moon is a very mysterious thing. There's a great book written by an astrophysicist called Who Built the Moon, right? Which is really fascinating because it looks at all the improbabilities and impossibilities mathematically about the moon. You know, the moon is the only structure, the only moon in the entire solar system that is perfectly placed to create what we call a solar eclipse. It is exactly placed at the exact distance it needs to be to fully cover the sun to create the eclipse effect. No other moon on Jupiter, on Mars, anywhere has the ability to do that because they don't have the exact proper distance. And there's 1,000 other things about the moon that don't mathematically make sense, you know, really? Suggesting that, you know, as a believer, I'm like, yeah, well, God put it there.
Just right,
yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, but those who are like also, but you can be a believer and also say, well, is this an artificial satellite? I mean, was this put into place? And we don't know. The mathematics are incredibly improbable. And so
it does also keeps the poles in balance, which is like a big, like, I think without it, like the planet would be constantly shifting its poles.
And the tides allow life to form.
Yeah.
So, you know, for me as a religious person, sure, that's all God, but it certainly, certainly means that the theory of this is all random rock and space ain't that likely.
I'm still cool with the idea that God's an alien. Like I don't have any problem with that.
Are you Mormon? My Mormon brothers and sisters have certain perspectives on UFOs.
I'm not like I'm just open to the idea of it. I just think it's an interesting idea. Like the idea that like a thing could evolve to the point where it doesn't have a body and can like move across the universe and has like this like ancient knowledge. I mean, I don't think that's that fucking nuts.
That's pretty much the Mormon tradition as I understand it. And forgive me to all the Mormons watching who say I got it wrong, but that's my understanding of the tradition.
Just seems like an interesting idea. Like I'm not saying that that's definitely it, but that's the thing about faith is like I don't need definitive. I'm just like it's interesting. It's like, it seems plausible.
I've heard theories of the Bible. I think chariots or something. Was it eagles or something that mentioned in Revelation? Yeah, they think those are UFOs.
Oh, Chariots of the Gods. I'm sorry, Chariots of Fire is a movie. Chariots of the Gods.
Yeah. I've heard that theory, and it's like it makes sense. I think a lot of those guys are kind of like UFO people, though. Like they draw conclusions, like because they want to believe it's true more than it's like
those guys
science.
Those are Chariots of the Gods and Ancient Aliens. I'm a huge fan of Ancient Aliens. They're useful for this. They prove that our current understanding of history is wrong. Whether it's aliens or the reason for the anomalies throughout history. That's for debate. But what we know is our history is wrong. I mean, the pyramids are not 5,000 years old. They're at least 10. They're older than allegedly civilization was in the Nile Basin, right? And so where do these things come from? The reason I say that because we now know that the Sphinx. Geologists have studied the Sphinx, and the Sphinx is at least 12,000 years old. The official story is the Sphinx is 5,000 years old, was built at the same time as the pyramids, right? 2000 BC. The Sphinx is at least 10,000 BC because there's water damage to the Sphinx that happened during massive flooding. And we know from geological history, the last time the Giza Plateau was flooded like that was 10,000 BC. And allegedly there's nobody living there. There's no civilization. There's people, hunter and gatherers, right? And the Sphinx is being built. And so we know that ain't true.
Right.
Who built the Sphinx and the pyramids? It wasn't Khufu. So who did it?
You heard the theory that the flood wiped out an advanced civilization. Like in Noah's age, we were like way more advanced than we are now. And the flood wiped it out and started back from scratch.
I believe we're facing a reset. I mean, we just lost our history. We think civilization started 5,000 years ago. That's the only records we got.
Yeah.
If there was a civilization more advanced than us today that wiped out,
I think like you just touched on like one of the most fundamental issues in the world is that, at least in our culture right now, is that people like having a definitive answer. that this is what it is, that there's no debate, that history is this is, that God is this, or it isn't. Like having that need for a concrete solution, a conclusion, not being open, not continuing to learn, I think could be like one of the biggest problems in the world right now, because I think that's where you get all these political divisions from. That's where you get all these cultural divides. It's where you get like crises of faith. I just think if we were honestly more open-minded, we would be better. We'd be healthier.
That's the right word, because it's all faith, right? Human beings are programmed to be religious. We can take away traditional religion and they'll replace it with ideologies and weirdo politics and weird pronoun stuff that you can't question, right? I mean, because the human mind needs certainty, and it needs to believe in something transcendent of it. It's programmed into us. And you can't, the moment you try to take it away, you replace it with something worse, right? And you take away religion, you replace it with these horrible cults.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I always said that.
Gotta get into the chat.
Oh.
Yeah. Isn't the girl tip $2? She didn't say anything, but she did tip, and it proves that there is a woman watching. So thank you. I saw Nancy here too.
Well, Keely Chow's in there too. I think Keely's a lady.
Keely Chow, Keely Chow is it? There's a few women. V-Star Nancy, and I feel like someone else. Sorry to the any other women who didn't show up.
I've always said that about the woke people, the SJWs, that they need religion, because it's like they need someone to morally guide them. They need to know what the right and wrong is. They need a set of ideas that like they didn't create, that they can just like give themselves over to. It's like
misgender Keely.
Oh, I'm sorry, Keely. You just broke my heart. Whatever. Okay.
Second rodeo lady. So
that's interesting. But yeah, I always thought that about them, because it just seems like that's what they're craving, but they just can't ask it at the one place where they'd actually get the answer they need.
Well, and that's the end result of our educational system. I am of the belief that it's the end result of a planned deconstruction of religion by nefarious people over several generations, and the end result of it. I also, as a believer, believe that plan is not going to work because people are burning out of this crap. And so, at the end of the day, if we are programmed to have faith, then we might as well have faith in something that works, right? That's why we're programmed to have it. There's a great book by an anthropologist called Religion is Not About God, right? So you can look it up on Amazon. And it's an interesting book because it's an anthropologist who studies the 5 major religions: Hinduism, Buddhism, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, right? And he studies them, and he states that I'm not interested in whether any of these religions is true. I'm not even going to try to find that out. What I want to do is I want to figure out if they serve a unified purpose. Why do religions exist? What is the purpose? And he concludes, after analyzing all of the rituals and the traditions of each of these 5 traditions, he concludes that religion, the purpose it serves, is to promote reproduction. It is a naturally evolved system of the human condition to promote reproduction and to preserve life and reproduction, right? He says, that doesn't mean there isn't a God. That doesn't mean that Buddha isn't true. I'm just saying the practical evolutionary purpose of this is it protects reproduction and protects the human race. And it is natural, evolved when our brains, animals don't need it because they're naturally into reproduction. We're the only race that wants to abort our children. We're the only race that wants to not have children. I mean, that's the only we're the only creatures that have this depopulation weirdness, right? And the systems needed to create a healthy human being who can then healthily reproduce are so difficult to obtain. You need, because when the human mind evolved to a place where it saw the world as story, you needed story to make sense of it and to teach values that promoted community and reproduction, right?
That's really interesting. And oppression of minorities.
That's true.
It's also for oppression. Oppression.
But again, who's talking about oppression? It's the people whose ideas aren't going to survive 3 generations, right? I mean, that's the thing, is you can say whatever you want about these 5 religions. They have survived thousands of years.
Well, that's their religion. Their religion is like oppression, but
it's not sustainable. But that's
right. No, 100%.
Woke is not sustainable. It destroys itself within. I mean, I think we're reaching it's really a 2-generation thing, right? I mean, I think we started getting woke a generation ago, and then we're now I'm Generation X, and we weren't woke then. Then you had the millennials, where the woke began. Now you get Generation
it's our fault.
Are morons, right? And so these 2 generations, Generation X survived a difficult generation, and then you got these clowns come in, these millennials who had it easy, and they lost faith in everything, and they started believing all these ideologies, and then you have these poor kids who are indoctrinated by their millennial teachers, right?
Yeah.
And they're miserable, and within a generation that's going to fail. And they're going to just want to be normal and have a girlfriend and have children and not be weird all the time. And that's good.
I hope so, man. I hope that you're right. I think Gary would disagree with you about Gary from Nerdrotic would disagree with you about the Gen X thing, though. He trashed a lot of his contemporaries because of how much they've sold out and how like they used to be this kind of punk rock anti-establishment thing, and now they're like punk rock for this.
That just exhausted old people, brother. That just exhausted old people. I'm done with this. You know, I'll just give me a paycheck, right? That's when the world is falling apart. Generation X never wanted to fight in the first place. We're the Breakfast Club. We just want to be left alone. And now it's destroying. We're just like, all right, I'm just gonna go, whatever. Yeah, I'll say whatever you want me to say. Give me a paycheck. I'm gonna leave.
That's funny.
Yeah, it is what.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, well, one thing I will say about Generation X, you do have those like weird, like 40-year-old, 50-year-old moms who are like super duper woke. Like the one TikTok teacher we covered a few, like almost a month ago, or whatever. The one teacher who was like, what was it? Like she was very easy to hate, but she was on TikTok and had traction. And
I don't remember.
There is that weird, like older.
Was it the vegan woman?
It's the old defeated.
Yeah, I think it was
the old defeated. You know, in her age, when she was in the 80s with me, she had big hoop earrings and big hair, was running around with some biker dude, right? And this is just old defeated crap. That's all it is.
Yeah, it's probably the same kind of thing too, where I think a lot of people marry their identity to being rebellious, but not just being rebellious, it's like what my identity is rebellious. Like that's how they look at themselves. Yeah. And so once that becomes not rebellious anymore, like once that kind of becomes the system, they have like this identity crisis. And I think that then they decide to push deeper and like, actually now I'm all about trans rights because like being gay isn't punk anymore. So it's like, that's what I'm about now. And they go like deeper and like
anyone that my generation is woke is an absolute loser. I mean, anyone that my generation is woke is just a loser, right? There's no
any generation is pretty much a loser, but I get what you're saying.
I get the kids though, because I was probably the equivalent of woke when I was in college. You know what I mean? I probably had like
regurgitating what you heard,
yeah, and just had this like enlightened point of view where everyone's nice, and really what it is these old systems of oppression, like whatever the hell dumb shit I believed. But it's like it takes time to figure this shit out and like separate the wheat from the chaff.
You know what it takes? It takes being rejected by a girl. When your woke crap gets you rejected by the girl and she's banging the non-woke dude, it's over.
That's a good goddamn point.
That dude, it's done.
You know what though?
Out the window.
Yo, that's Vigilante's entire theory, dog. That's Vigilante's entire worldview.
No, here's the.
Tell me, I want to hear.
Well, here's the thing. Here's what becomes the problem. I don't know. We've talked a lot of conspiracy stuff. I'm not sure if AJ Styles, that's what I call the InfoWar guy. I'm not sure if his turn to freaking frogs gay has happened, but there is like this like cuck thing that's like a real thing where it's like, I don't care. I'm still doing the right thing. So in the same way that we talk about my
girl, I can't please her. This dude can please her while I watch in the
corner. Yes, I've seen that. I'm like, what?
And I saw too, like just like what you're saying about getting rejected by a girl, like the wokest girls I knew, they always just had like a standard, like successful white dude boyfriend. Like they never had like, like some, like black kid from Atlanta. Like it always was the exact, it was so predictable. You set your fucking watch to it. Like
they're all going to become wine moms, and they're just trying to impress each other. Right. Yes. The woke white woman is the biggest fraud in Hollywood, right? I mean,
tell him, Cameron.
I've worked with them, and they're the biggest nightmares, man. They're the biggest because they are the pyramid of victimization in their own mind. While they're all rich and and
the fucking top of society. Everyone's taking care of you.
Everyone's scared of them. Nobody wants to scare them. They're the first ones to go straight to HR when they don't like you, whatever. Everyone's terrified of a woke white woman.
Their little cliques, and they just like kick people out.
Yeah, and it's all Mean Girls. I've worked on a show that was Mean Girls, where the entire environment was literally everyone was terrified of this group of woke white women who were just basically taking everybody out and were mistreating the blacks and the minorities and everybody else in the group. And but they were woke and white, so you couldn't say, "Hey, you're a racist. Why you're mistreating that black girl in the room?" Right. I'm not. She's just blah blah blah. I was like, "No, you were picking on her."
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all about the ideology. That's why it's not really about race. It's not really about oppression. It's about protecting the ideology. That's what the woke people are about. Because it's like you say, we say all the time. They don't give a fuck about conservative women, black. They're not gonna like Yas Queen for Candace Owens. Yeah. They fucking hate her. So it's like anyone.
My own issues with Candace Owens too. Like I said, I'm a
regardless.
My own issues.
But their ideology is a all black women ideology. Well, until you
exactly because they need the black woman as the maid.
Right.
A black woman that's independent, who's self-empowered and doesn't need their garbage is a real threat for them. Even worse than a black man, because a black man who's powerful like a Malcolm X, whatever, they fantasize about that guy, but they will. It's even. I was watching the movie Malcolm X last week, one of my favorite movies, right? And I was watching it in the theater last week, and there's a great moment I had forgotten when Malcolm, in his sort of young days before he found his sort of spiritual path, when he was sort of a hustler in the street, right? He was dating this white woman, and he says to her when they're in bed together, he's like, "So you're gonna call rape on me?" Because even this is 1940 and he knows what's up.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting thing. That was a good goddamn movie. I really like that movie.
One of my favorite movies. And it's more relevant today than it was even when it came out. It speaks to where we are, and it speaks to, had Malcolm lived, then he would have been an incredible force for the black community and for the world. And that's why I think they took him out, right? I think it's not a coincidence that when he came back from his tour of the Middle East and Mecca, and he started talking in universal terms about empowerment for all of humanity, 3 weeks later, boom!
God, yeah. He was being followed then.
I was like, we got to take this guy out.
Yep. Support division and you're all good. Support unity. Can't have that.
It's a problem. And just an instant story about that. I know Muhammad Ali apparently was there at some point and he was scared. Basically, he didn't want to be seen with him because he knew the hit was basically. Yeah,
I know Muhammad Ali's eldest daughter, Maryam Meme, very well. She's a friend of mine, cool. And so she's a good friend, and she's a wonderful person. She's his eldest daughter, and Meme told me a lot. I mean, Muhammad Ali and Malcolm were close friends, and then Muhammad Ali, Malcolm broke from Nation of Islam, and Muhammad Ali remained for a while with them, and so that soured the friendship. Later, after Malcolm's murder, and then Elijah Muhammad, his son, basically took control of the movement and brought them into normative Islam, and that's when Muhammad Ali became sort of a normative Muslim. And then then that's a loss he had, because this close friend of his, when he was involved in this thing, he broke off from, and that's something he can't get back.
Yeah, that's a bit like Scientology in that regard, like the way it was, you have to be a part of the group. It's
an important movement. Look, for me, and forgive me for anyone in the chat, everyone else, I mean, Nation of Islam for me as a traditional Muslim is a bit of a cult, right? It's not normative Islam, but it was actually a necessary historical process, because it actually gave something of value to the black community. Nobody, right? Churches, nobody was saying, go empower yourself, get your life.
Stop saying that.
Nobody else. Nobody was saying it. These guys said it. So it was a necessary historical process.
Interesting.
One thing that pisses me off is about, like, a lot of wokies will use Malcolm X's image. Like, they had that one movie. I didn't even see it. It was a One Night in Miami. I'm like, if you guys knew how much Malcolm X would hate you guys. Like, he said it.
He hated it back then.
I mean, he
most dangerous thing in the Western Hemisphere.
He called out black liberals.
Yes.
He said this stuff don't work. He said one of the reasons he and Martin Luther King didn't get along, he's like, man, you're leading these people to end up, you're just going to make them a new form of slave in his view, right? The people that you're working with, you might have good ideals. The people you're working with don't share those ideals. And they want these people as passive, weak, living off of handouts from the government. That's what they want. He said that people want to hear it.
Yeah, I say that all the time.
Some truth to what he was like. I think he was right, because even his criticisms of Martin Luther King, who's beloved for good reason, I do think that there is a huge element of the black community that did just get on the handout system. The go along to get along gang, to quote Kwame Brown, it is definitely a huge part of it.
And the point when he was killed was exactly when he was most dangerous. When he was saying, when he let go of the anti-white racism, and he started saying, we can work with white people. First, let's have black unity, and then we can work with white people as well. That's when it's a problem, right? Because now he's teaching black people, don't use drugs, don't use welfare, get your own businesses, and he's also being friendly to white people and teaching them that. Boom,
dude, that's what's going on right fucking now. It's like when I was a kid and I started getting into hip hop, I assumed black hip hop artists hated me. I just assumed it was racist. That's just because I guess that was the impression I had or whatever. Well, yeah, I mean, me individually, but I meant all white people. No, but it's like I started listening to it and I was like, oh no, and I was like, I have like a lot in common with these guys. We kind of like have like similar values, like we're both talking about bitches, like smoking weed. I was like, this is who I am. This is great. And so I just started listening to it, and then it's like I became very comfortable with like that culture. And then like as the years progressed, you saw culture kind of the same way, was getting to a point where really there wasn't this giant division until like 10 years ago or so.
But the division is on purpose to hide the real division, because you just hit something. The division in America has always been about class, and it's different by race.
Yep,
absolutely.
100%.
So you don't talk about class, but you talk about race, so you don't have to talk about class, which is the real problem. Like I said, Eminem has more in common with most hip hop guys as a lower class and struggling white kid, who's got a story to tell about survival. He's got more in common with struggling black kids does with the white woke woman. But they want to talk about him as a white guy and his cultural appropriation. They don't want him having that connection.
I grew up in Detroit. Eminem's life is way worse than mine. Like, my life was not perfect, but it was considerably worse. And I also lived a good portion of my life in rural Michigan, where, like, he says, I'm back in the 810 now. Like, I've been in the 810 now, where it's just like it's basically a Sweet Home Alabama. And I can say, like, I seen like some of the craziest shit in rural Michigan, where it's just nothing, and meth is a huge thing, and it's like, what is it? I think there's more poor white people in this country than there are black people, period.
Well, look, think about
something like that.
The most dangerous thing that Malcolm X said was, don't drink, don't use drugs. That's it. That's the most dangerous thing, because that would destroy the alcohol industry and would destroy the entire, because if black people stopped it and then white people stopped drinking and using drugs, that's enough to kill somebody over. That's multi-trillion-dollar industries that would end, right? If people just said, I don't want to do this anymore. He did. He was the example of what Nancy Reagan just say. No, he did it. He was a cocaine addict who became total religious dude, right? Yeah. And he said, I'm the example. I stopped. You stopped too, not because I'm preaching you as Nancy Reagan, because it's making you weak.
Yeah.
That's a threat.
Real quick, peace out, Nerd Porio. I know you're on a limited clock, because I think you have Paulie next.
So yeah.
And I'm like, we still have not gotten to the Joe Rogan thing, because you're such a. It's just like so much.
We don't have time. But what are some of the major points?
Okay, I can read kind of like.
Yeah. Read some of it. Go ahead, bitch.
Okay, I'll just read it. He says, this is the problem, not just with Hollywood, but also Los Angeles, because Los Angeles is I can't read that word. It's connected to show business inexorably. There you go. There's no getting around that. The reason why a large percentage of people move there, and why it also massively affects the politics of the place. It's not just politics, but social discussions. You say that you want people. You say that people are going to want to hear because they cast you. And what is this? But the way the system works is you go there, you go in a room, someone would come in and say, hey, Mark, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where'd you move from? And there's a smugness to it, a weirdness, because they have all this power over you. I'm just going off the Bounding article and just reading his quote.
That. He's exactly right. I've sat in casting sessions. You've been on the other end of it. You've been an actor on the other end. I've sat in casting sessions, and it's literally like a cattle call. You're prodding them. You're prodding them about their past. It's degrading. I've had to be on the other end of that, and I try to be as connected to the actors as possible. I actually take acting classes. I'm not an actor. I don't want to be. But I've taken acting classes as a writer and as a director, as a producer, so that I understand the actor's process, and I recognize how vulnerable that job is and how hard it is. And so I try to be as gracious as possible. But you bring these actors in, and they are treated like meat.
It's not everybody. Like, I've definitely had great auditions where people were lovely. It was a wonderful day. But like, on the other end of it, I've had to pay for casting director workshops where they treated me like a fucking asshole. And I'm like, I just gave you money, and now you're talking down to me. You're treating me like
the only reason you gave the money was your hope that this casting director will remember you for a project.
Well, yeah, like
actually for the profound.
Of course not.
Session. Yeah,
it's to create a network, which is illegal, but it's like whatever. It's like you do it because it's Hollywood.
Whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. Casting couch is illegal. Whatever.
Yeah, but like that's the thing. Like that's the spectrum. It's like obviously it's not everybody, but there is this power dynamic, and it's like you know, as just a normal person who wants to speak up, speak their mind, it's like you feel this sort of, and then I can't because I want work and I don't want to get like a bad reputation. So you kind of like fight that inner thing, and you just like die inside, and then it does. And he's right. I think it characterizes almost so many interactions in like the center Los Angeles area, not really on the outskirts, like Long Beach and the Valley. I don't give a shit about any of that, but like in the Hollywood proper shit, like
everyone just wants to be liked. Look, as someone who has really passionate fans and really aggressive enemies, I would prefer to just be liked. It makes my life so much easier.
Yeah.
It can't be because I can't give up my integrity. And so that would never be me. The only saving grace that I have that most actors do not have is that I can create my own material. You don't have to like me, but if you really like my script, you still have to pay me for it. And you can get rid of me, you can kick me off the project, you don't like me, but I still got paid and I still got a credit and we're still moving, right? And so actors like, you don't like me, I guess I'm not getting the role. Because they are unless they're directing their own movie and producing and financing it, they're not in a position of power. They're the ones being put up there by somebody else.
Yeah, and it starts at the lowest levels, man. I was at an acting studio, and it was like that was their gate. That was the first gate. You know what I mean? It was just because it was a good, people graduated from there. Like, what's the guy? Mahershala Ali. Like, he studied there. You know what I mean? It was and it's like
Blade. He's the new Blade.
Right, and so it's like. They obviously have access. I mean, we had a database of every agent in town. I mean, they would promote people that they liked. I mean, that was part of it. But it was just, like if they don't like you, they're not going to kick you out. They'll keep taking your money, but they're not going to help your career along. And it's like, you don't say the right things, you don't have the right opinions. You're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, there's a second part of the quote I wanted to get into because limited time. He says, "I've been in rooms where they discuss politics like right away, and you see the people bend to whichever way the wind is blowing. Like, what do I have to say? I think it's about time we had a woman president. Like, they'll say shit and they don't have opinions. What they have is a conglomeration of opinions that they adopted because they think it will be beneficial to their career. And the last part is, I would go on these auditions and see these fuckers that were lost in this world being chosen for things, and that's what shapes the entire mindset of that part of the country." And that's pretty much the everyone's just looking at each other when they're saying what they're saying, and the moment the moment the word changes, they flow with it. Oh, everyone's using Latinx right now. I'm going with that. Everyone's using pronouns in their bios. I guess I'm going with that. Right? Somebody says to me, we should have a female president. I'm like, you're right, we should. Kristi Noem is great. I love her. Governor of South Dakota, the one who put no lockdowns, restrictions, masks on her state. Only state, even Florida had lockdowns for a while. She didn't do anything. And she's beautiful and she's intelligent. Let's make her president. That's not what they want.
No way.
Yeah, but I'm the kind of guy that will be the jerk in the room that says that, and that's why I don't get hired for everything.
Yeah,
but I respect your integrity, bro. I really do. I respect the fact that you stuck it out. You're still there. You're not letting any of this slow you down, and you're like a principled man. It's like I genuinely respect you, brother.
I'll take it, my friend, because one of the reasons I do connections with the YouTube community is, I've said this, is that I've got a lot of allies, business allies, business contacts in Hollywood. I even have a few friends in Hollywood, people I care about, right, beyond business. It's actually in this community that I feel connected, because these are normal people. I'm not in a normal world. And so that's one of the reasons I do this.
Normal is an operative word again.
Well, you got a mask on. I don't care. I feel I know your soul better than all these people who don't have masks on that I work with, right? Who have many masks on.
But you can see my mask, right?
No, Cameron, I completely identify with what you're saying, dude. Like, that was the one thing that always kind of broke my heart about my pursuit of acting, was like, not even like it didn't work out. It was the fact that, like, I set out and I imagined I would find this community, and I never did. And I never found the people that shared like those values until I came here. And then I was like, oh shit, this is where they are. This is where everybody is.
And we're the consumers, we're the buyers, we're the normal people. We are, like I said from that book, what is, religion is not about God. We're the ones that are actually saving the human race. Everyone else there's this destructive element that's largely in Hollywood that wants the human race to self-destruct. That wants us to stop reproducing. It wants there to be race wars. The reason they do that is that
basically.
Yeah. Well, they're going to be on the top of that chaos, right? It is better to rule in hell than to serve in heaven, right?
Damn, dropping knowledge, Cameron.
The old school. And so that's it. I mean, these people, if people like us were running things, they would be serving in heaven, right? And that's not what they want.
Damn, that's really fucking insightful. Damn, you are a good writer.
I'll take it, brother. I'll take it. But are there any sort of last minute thing? I got about 3 minutes left. Are there any last minute things we got to address before I take off?
Is there anything you want to promote?
Yeah.
I'm sure if I got the one thing, and I'm actually a lot of fans. I have my novels, which are very important to me. Like, I'm a novelist, and when I was on Twitter, people could just go to my Twitter homepage, and a link to my novels was available there. But I've actually been wonderful. That a lot of people who have been following me on YouTube and Twitter are now reading my novels. They're really liking. So I got a couple of books. If any of you like historical novels, I got these 2 books. You got my novel Mother of the Believers, which is it's an epic about the birth of Islam from the point of view of Muhammad's wife. So if you're interested in Islam, you're interested in history or how a brown dude writes an Arab woman, that might be interesting. And then there's this other book here, which is Shadow of the Swords, which is my novel on the Crusades. which is about Richard the Lionheart versus the Muslim Sultan Saladin. If you watch Kingdom of Heaven, it's a story that happens after that. In Kingdom of Heaven, Saladin takes Jerusalem, and the Crusader kingdom falls apart. And so this is a story of how Richard the Lionheart fought him and to try to take it back. And I'm very proud of those books. And if you guys have a chance, you can go to Amazon, you can enter my name, Kamran Pasha, and you'll find the books. If you go to my website, which is my name, KamranPasha.com, there's a link right there. You can press it. And people, the one delightful thing is I'm actually getting a lot of fans of my books now from these YouTube things, and I'm getting all these messages, people liking it. So that means a lot to me.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
If there's any modulantes that can help and toss Cameron's stuff in the chat, I would appreciate it.
It's all good. If anyone knows how to link all that, that's fine.
You're looking for normies, you're way off. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
And Diablo Dame is halfway through Mother.
Wow, a lot to be Diablo. So I would be able to send me a message, and you can send me a message through Instagram. My Kamran Pasha 72 is my Instagram, and I'd love to hear what you think of it. When you finish the book. If you hate it, please don't tell me that. I'll hurt my feelings. But
yeah, please don't do that. Yeah, I have some notes. No.
I get that all the time. I once got these notes. I remember handing in a script to a director. And then his wife gave me notes, and his wife didn't know what she was talking about, right? And then the director's movie failed massively, and his career ended. So I think a lot of them took his wife's notes, right? She obviously wasn't guiding him properly either. So whatever.
Man, pick your wife closely.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you very much, Cameron. This was a pleasure. This was a blast. Really appreciate you having me on, man.
It's all good, guys. What a pleasure. I hope I can do it again. Give me a call in a few weeks, whatever, if you want to do it again. Hopefully I'm going to be busy on selling one of my shows, and then I won't be able to do many of these, but I'll still take some time, to come on and talk, I hope, for a little bit.
Fucking A. Thanks again, brother.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We'll
thank you for showing up. All right,
guys. God bless. Peace. Bye-bye.
Later.
Peace
out. Shit, that was something dope. Else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah, we're still going. We're not gonna we still got another half hour at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was
That
was incredible.
That was wild.
Incredible. And thank you to the 30 some odd people who sat through. That was like that felt Rogan-esque.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? With all the different subjects. We got spiritual.
Yeah.
Talked to some more conspiracy stuff, which isn't really conspiracy, but I want to wake up tomorrow. So there's that.
Right. Which totally never happened. Yeah, we don't normally. We're normally very specific. Like we usually just, the topic and the woke people. And I was like, here we are talking about like the nature of the universe. And he's like, it's all real in Hollywood. And I was like, I kind of want to just poke fun at woke people. This is insane.
Yeah, I felt the opposite. It's like, how the hell do I break up? Oh, well, now Brie Larson. It's like,
right? You can't.
The existence of the universe or,
Yeah. Some dumb shit an actress said. Who cares? Yeah. We're having that up. No. Wookiee Lives Matter says applause. Thank you very much. Lots of really positive feedback. That's awesome.
And sorry to the chat. I feel like I ignored you guys. I tried to get as much stuff in.
Well, it's kind of hard to focus on anything else. He's so fucking interesting. Have you tried DMT though?
Basically, it was the whole thing we didn't say.
Yeah,
the whole thing we didn't say. It was pretty lively, pretty good.
Yeah, but it was fascinating. Like I didn't want to look at the chat because I kind of got to get distracted. He's so engaging and captivating, and just can talk about so many different things. And because he's a storyteller professionally, he's concise, and he really knows how to get his point across in a way that like you're really engaged with. He doesn't like meander or anything like that. Like he really gets to the point. It's like fuck. Wow, that was okay. It was almost intense to just be like, listening to his mind for so long. Like that was really, really cool.
Yeah, we definitely have to do it again. I would love to do that again. If he wasn't doing a couple weeks, maybe a couple weeks, whenever. Poking fun at wokies is boring. I kind of have that opinion. Like if we have, there's something funny that he had. But I'm starting because it's starting to be like, okay, what's next?
I'm getting annoyed with it. I am getting annoyed with it, but there's still a lot that
now. Kevin Feige admits he's going to subvert Black Widow. Ooh,
yeah. Like I don't need to talk about everything, but it does still the torch needs to be carried, man. Because I swear to God, like I still see so many people online who just don't get it, like who just think this is all just online bullshit. It's not real, and it is. It's very, very real, and it does need to be talked about. True. But like at the same time, like it's the show. Let's have fun.
Yeah. And I mean, I do think I'm trying to find my balance right? Like I'm trying to find my personal balance with like how much of this stuff I want to talk about. Like if I feel like if there's something I can sink my teeth in, I want to talk about it. But we're at a point where this is just like everything. Like this Black Widow thing, I'm really hoping. I hope it makes a lot of money so it can expose people and be the Last Jedi for Marvel. That's my interest in it. There's a chance that it could be that.
The conversation can evolve. We don't need to continue pointing out how wrong their worldview is. I mean, that's an implied now. But dude, like I was talking with this guy at work last night, man, and it was like, it was a really good conversation, but it's like he doesn't hang out on these YouTube channels. He doesn't listen to this type of conversation all the time. It was like he was coming at it from just like a completely outsider point of view. And it was like all the things I was saying were they were foreign to him. Like he was just like, okay, maybe I'll see, it was like, there's still a lot of people who haven't heard any of this shit. Who are still just going about their day-to-day life and have no idea that there's this grand, conspiracy to destroy Western culture through our fucking entertainment. Like it does still need to be loudly talked about. I mean, obviously I don't want to bore our fucking audience with the same shit every single day, but we can't give up. We can't like get bored of the fight now. It's like, I don't know. I think it just needs to keep.
We got to get better because to quote, we talked about hip hop, quote Andre 3000, speeches only reaches those who already know about it. Basically, we'll create our own echo chamber. How do we get that guy? How do we get that guy to understand our perspective without sounding like we're reading software? Because whenever you get something you don't understand, you just like, okay, somebody is speaking a different language, or they're speaking in science or high level math. I have that much comprehension of what someone says, and that I think like the normies are the key. We're never going to convince somebody who's in woke land what to do, but the normies who don't know what's going on, we do have to at least figure a way to be more palatable to someone who's like, okay, I've never, I didn't really like The Last Jedi or a couple of these movies, but I didn't connect the dots.
The one who does that the best is Critical Drinker. He's the one that does it the best because he manages to like when he had the whole Captain Marvel movie, until I got my mind right, and then like had that whole angle on it where it's like, now it's the greatest movie I've ever seen. Now that he's like plugged into the Matrix, it was like that, and that reached a lot of people. And he's like he's gonna be at 1 million subs, in the next few months.
Soon.
Yeah, and that's huge. And for someone like who's that based and that like doesn't play this shit, but like also like is going to be that influential, that's really an exciting development.
And why I think he's been successful is that he's focused on things that are universal. Yes. Isms and Girls has this point, says you get to them by pointing out shit on a grocery store shelves. Everyone can relate to that. And I would say everyone can relate to bad writing. Everyone knows what bad writing is. Yeah. So instead of saying this is woke, this is bad, focusing on why the writing itself does not hold up is a way of getting someone who may not even have known this is going on. So, oh, okay, so this is why I didn't like it. I've told stories about my mom who doesn't like some woke things, but she doesn't necessarily know the reason it's because it's woke. She just knows this isn't good, and that's it. And it just goes on to the next thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and but that's why I think it is important to like still walk through it. You know what I mean? Like even if it does, like I honestly I don't want to become boring or repetitive. Obviously, like that's uninteresting. But it's just maybe it'll be that thing that'll click for them. You know what I mean? That time, I don't know. Like we're still figuring this out as much as anybody else. And I think if we start becoming fucking boring to our own audience, they'll let us know. Yeah.
Very true.
I'm pretty sure Stench Dildo's not going to sit on that one. You know what I mean?
No.
He's already saying we're boring.
Yeah. If they have kids, what's going on most likely in their school? Well, that's a good point, because that's why critical race theory is probably going to get shot down. Is this critical race theory being introduced in schools was a huge red pilling. I saw someone said the clown pill, but that like Normie said, oh, this is what they're teaching my kids.
Yeah.
Like black kids, black parents, white parents, no matter what. It's
racially,
okay, this is nope.
It's really interesting. And there's a lot of those videos that are like, like people are stepping the fuck up and fighting against this shit. It's badass.
Yeah.
And they're not even doing it. They're doing it in public.
Yeah, in public. Well, because they don't even know enough to know you're not. They don't know the rules. This is their first. They work, 8 to 10 hours a day, drive home, drop the kids off of school, this, and third, and then the kids say, "Yeah, mommy, my teacher said I ain't shit," or a nicer way of saying it. And he's
Whatever.
like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
and that's just their first thing. So they just go up to the board and they go viral without knowing there's a culture war and this is not what you're supposed to say. And they don't know any of that shit. They work. Do whatever, and then they pick up the kids from school and they hear crazy shit.
Yep. Yeah, because they don't have the time to fucking, obsess over what the nature of The Last Jedi was. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, that sucked. And then they move on and that's it. And it's like, meanwhile, we've been having this conference. And that was the thing, like talking to this guy at the bar last night, it was just like, I was like, God damn it. Like we've gone over so much of this stuff, and it's like it's interesting. I have to walk back through when I first got into the conversation and start there and explain how it's it's so consistent and it's like the baseline shit that we've already been discussing for 4 years or whatever the fuck, Yeah. And it was interesting. I was like, God, it was kind of a lot of work, but it was also really an interesting exercise because it's look, I can't just talk to the people who are indoctrinated, or indoctrinated is the wrong word, but you can't just preach to the converted all day long. You got to reach the bigger flock, as it were.
Absolutely. Real quick, couple things. Second Rodeo, who's newer, because I haven't really seen you too much. Thank you for being here.
Welcome. And a woman. See?
And a woman.
Female representation.
There you go. We asked where the white woman at. I'm not sure if you're a white woman, but appreciate it. Tim Pool apparently calls it critical race applied principles. Crap.
That's funny. That's pretty clever.
Diddle says he's known to holding back his opinions. What are you talking about?
No. There was a story though that I wanted to talk about. I don't know if it's woke or not. I don't know if it's about that, but the Lord of the Rings or something like that. There's some development there. Daedalic Entertainment reveals first look at Gandalf, Mouth of Sauron, and King Thranduil for the Lord of the Rings.
In Second Rodeo, they said that they're peach colored. So I'm supposed to be black, but I'm really dark beige. I get it.
I mean,
whatever. These, they're actually not racist. Colors are not racist, just racial designation. That's a whole can of worms for another day. But
I actually do kind of agree with the woke people in the sense that whiteness is like a fake thing. I actually agree with you. It'd be nice to go back to people who are Irish or fucking, what I mean, Scandinavian and shit like that. It's just that there's been so much cross culture, national breeding. It's I'm not even I don't even have a dominant ethnicity. You know what I mean? Or nationality. I'm just a white guy from Jersey. I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of Irish. I'm kind of Italian. Whatever.
Yeah. Just why?
Yeah. I'm base is what I am. Fucking base.
There you go.
Fuck. That's right. It's my identity.
Base fuck, bro.
Yeah. So this is interesting. I don't know if this. I mean, I'm sure it's fucking. Probably got in the shape of a vagina or something like that. But
it does. Something's going on with this mountain. I don't know. And this is phallic. Who knows?
Yeah, but that's all consistent with Lord of the Rings, man.
Yeah, I know. That's a joke. Wasn't a good
whoopsie.
But no worries. Second Rodeo says I hate this. Is a lot with me. Hate being called part of any group. I'm an individual. I think we all try to be individuals. But yeah, we can go through this.
Yeah, I'm curious.
I mean, I'm interested in seeing what happens with this Lord of the Rings.
Me too.
How much money they've already thrown so much money at it. I want to see what the payoff is.
Look, they found sentient dildo's lair. Archaeologists discover $6,000 island settlement off Croatian coast. They got you, buddy. Ha! Can't hide any longer. That's right.
All righty. Daedalic Entertainment reveals first look at Gandalf, Mouth of Sauron, and King Thranduil for Lord of the Rings Gollum. So they're doing a Lord of the Rings Gollum?
It says, this is for a game. For their upcoming stealth action adventure game. Lord of the Rings Gollum. Oh, okay. I thought that was... I thought it was a property, like a film property, too. Yeah. Because they had the animated, they announced, and everything like that. I thought it was the show. I was like, oh, okay. I thought it was like art from the show or something.
Yeah. Still.
I mean, that's
still
cool.
want to cover it?
I mean, well, why not? I mean,
Sounds disappointed.
I disappointed in the sense I thought it was from the show, which is bigger news.
Yeah,
like it's interesting that it's a Gollum video game. I mean, and that might be cool. I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, that's something else I'm kind of thinking about because I feel like games are going to be the only form of entertainment because the finances on a game, you can make a game for the same amount of money you make a comic, not necessarily a high-end 3D game.
Yeah, not a AAA. Yeah,
not a AAA game, but you can make a game that makes AAA. There's a lot of small budget games that made a lot of money.
That's true. Indie gaming's big, yeah, and like people,
big.
Yeah, and then people can program it by themselves, pretty much. Like there's, yeah. Did you ever see that documentary, indie game?
Yeah. Where they what was it, Super Meat Boy? It was on.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what the other game was. And then it
Fez,
became a big game.
Fez was one of those.
Yep.
Braid was another one.
Yep.
I played Braid. Braid was good.
It is.
Braid was fucking hard. No, I don't hear you roboting.
Okay.
Maybe through the stream, maybe on YouTube, but I don't hear it.
Okay, let us know if either of us are roboting because things are weird with my internet stuff.
CIA found us.
Yep, they did.
They didn't like us talking.
Sonic ripoff with Gollum. I'm not sure.
I don't know anything about this. This is all new to me.
Yeah, it is new. We can skim through it because I mean, sure. Last of Us was a woke thing. It's not like games are immune from wokeness.
Hardly. Fucking hell. Jesus Christ. Look at any fucking game library. It's like 90% women. They have this PlayStation commercial where it's these two women like fighting, shooting at each other. And it's like, who really? Like, the thing is that marketing, that shit, there's a reason why they use like people who represent the demographic. Because when I see two women doing something in a commercial, I'm like, oh, this doesn't concern me. So I don't watch it. Right? Like, it's a product that's like most likely, like for the demographic being depicted. It's not racism, it's marketing. And it's like, so it's like, so where are these legions of women who play PlayStation all night? I know gamers exist, gamer girls exist. I believe it. I'm not saying it's not, but it's just like the majority. It's gotta be 90-10 men. Has to be.
I would say so. And the only way it's anything higher than that is just the Twitch community. Like, you know what I mean? The fake gamer girls who all are streaming. Like, outside of that, I don't believe it either. And that's kind of a crossover thing of something I was thinking about. Like, if you notice there's no more chick flicks either. Like, chick flicks used to be a major thing. We haven't noticed that, but that's something I've noticed since Dildo has an 80-20. And my theory is they're trying to make they're not just ruining our genre of beloved male things. Wow. They're trying so hard to mesh it together because you can't show a woman loving a man. That can't happen.
Wow, that's a really good point.
You can't have a rom-com. How can you have a rom-com? Think about any rom-com that doesn't get hit by the intersectional wall. It can't work.
That's interesting. There's actually some articles about it, and it's all coming from the woke people. Of course, they're going to try to frame it like it's but yeah, there's all these different articles. I never even noticed that, but you're right. Like the Mary Sue has an article about it.
I noticed a few, you know what it was? I was actually shout out to 24/7 Fusion Media. He was talking about how you can't do raunchy comedies. You can't do raunchy comedies. You can't. And he was right. You can't. He was talking about all these old like Porkies and stuff like that. Like none of that shit will ever happen again. And then somehow a rom-com maybe it was something about Mary and I thought about romantic comedies. I'm like, when is the last time they had a romantic comedy?
That's a really good point, dude.
They don't even make movies for women because women don't exist. Remember, there's no.
That's right.
That's just a gender construct, and it's just the patriarchy. Why all these women have liked romance novels for 100 years, and why the last big thing for women was what was that shit? 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah,
that's still like 10 years ago almost.
Damn, dude, that's a good goddamn point. I'll tell you what, too, bro. Like, I think their cultural conditioning is working, man, because the way I interact with the girls now, like, when I was coming up, when I was like in my 20s, you know what I mean? Or maybe even like younger, like the way you interacted with women was, you know, you were like polite, respectful. You didn't try to be too aggressively sexual because like, you know, that was like disrespectful to them or whatever. Like, yo, man, these girls now, it's like, if you're coming at it with like, you know, politeness or like emotions, like that's a big conflict. Like they want to get into bed now. Like, it's weird. It's like when you're trying to like, I kind of want to like wait and get to know you and develop something with it. Like they're all over it. Like it's fucking wild, man. Like this new generation of girls they are different.
Yeah, that's why I'm never getting married. Ever. I can't. Every day I realize it is never gonna I can't do it. Because like these hoes ain't loyal. They ain't.
They're not, man. That's why I fucking was reading this thing online and it was so funny. It was just in the comment section on these memes, but it said, just remember, she's not yours. It's just your turn.
It's your turn.
I was like, yo, I like that.
And sorry to the ladies, the few ladies that are in the chat, isn't a girl. Yeah, sexual liberation, man. A lot of cat ladies are being made, man.
That's the thing, yo. It's weird. It's like, but then I don't know. I guess there are enough people getting married and having babies and shit. Like I don't know. It's just I don't know how to interact with it. Like now I've just kind of decided like, all right, I'm just gonna roll with this. Like I'm not gonna try. That's the only thing you can do. Yeah, like I'm not gonna try to. It's like, all right, I'll fuck around. I guess. Yeah.
Try not to, because the child support things that's a problem that used to be thought of as this black problem. It ain't no more. Welcome to the party, pal. Welcome to baby mama drama. You like so much damn hip hop. Enjoy family court. Enjoy family court.
That was hilarious. That's really funny. Yeah, I mean, that's what I was saying, man. I think some of this shit really is working. Like, there isn't that like traditional kind of like courting process, you know what I mean, anymore. Like it's like dead. And I don't know, man. It's wild.
UDTF. You don't even need words, just letters. UDTF question mark. You're either getting a yes or a no.
Simple. Oh yeah. Yeah, like I'm like trying to get to know girls on Tinder. You fucking idiot. It's like, just say something vaguely sexual and kind of funny. She'll come over and blow you. It's so weird. Yeah, but it's weird. It's like you feel like, wait, so treating you with respect was the mistake?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And like, what do you do? That's why, like, you're gonna marry the girl who just gave you a blowy after a conversation on Tinder? Come on,
right? Man. You know what I mean? And then talks and freely talks about the other dudes that she either just banged or you know what I mean? It's just like how many this year? You're like, I don't know, man. This is weird. like
you're all proud. Like you're all proud about ruining your ability to pair bond. Like, cool.
Pair bond? What's that?
Pair bond.
Pair bond.
The ability for one person to bond with another and be in a healthy relationship. Like,
yeah.
It's science on it. After a certain amount of partners, it's impossible.
Really?
Borders on about. Yeah. So these girls are already like
I'm fucked
through by like 21.
If that's true, then I'm fucked. Oh wow, because I'm way past that. I didn't know that.
Well, yeah.
They should have told me that. I still would have done it though. Damn, that's some shit.
I'm sorry. Somebody said MGTOW. I'm not a MGTOW, right?
MGTOW Matt.
I understand.
That's going to be the new direction of my channel. No more woke stuff. Now I'm MGTOW Matt.
There you go. You might blow up.
No, I'm not. I still have hope. I still have faith. I still believe in the because I mean they're not women or individuals too. I mean, yeah, there's like NPCs and women are but there's still women like with values and principles and shit like that. Like how could there not be any? Vigilante, come on now. Come on now.
I don't believe. Is it statistically there has to be some, but the likelihood is too low for me to play the game and care. And I'm like too fat, so it's like it doesn't even matter. And I don't have I don't have the Patrice O'Neal game. And plus, he was tall, so it worked.
Yeah,
he was like 6'4", and I'm just like 5'10", 5'11", so I'm this stumpy fat guy. It ain't gonna work. But even when I wasn't as fat, like when I had like the weight off of me and it was dealing with girls, it was just like, this is insane. because all I'm doing is spending a lot of money on these dates. Because I would go on dates and shit, and I finally got it down to a system. It was like coffee, I get water, so I'm just buying one coffee. And because it got too expensive, I'm buying all these whores money, buying all these stupid whores. And some of them might go back with me, some of them won't. But it's like, this is not mathing right. It isn't. This doesn't work.
But a guy like Rogan figured it out.
What do you mean?
He's like married with kids. He's happy.
He's a millionaire.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And one of the most successful. And it didn't work for 2 billionaires just recently.
But billionaires, I don't. But yeah, but millionaires doesn't mean a happy relationship.
Billionaire.
It'll help attract. Yeah, it'll help. But I mean, even just like, being financially stable enough to raise children probably is a good place to start if you're trying to get married.
That's true.
But like, but I mean, I don't know. Like, it seems difficult, but I think it's possible.
I don't.
But what are you gonna do? Just like fucking sleep around for the rest of your life?
Yeah, or not. Which is what I'm already on pace to do anyway. But here's what it is. It's like it's not worth the effort. Because I'm not as good looking. So nothing's worse with being an ugly guy to a bunch of whores. That sucks. And maybe a few no. I'm too old to put in the effort I used to put in. It took a lot of effort. And it's just I'm not willing to put it in.
That's sad to hear, man.
Yeah. No, it's empowering because now, like, what I realize is that
Queen.
Energy. Yes, Queen. Like, no, that energy that I put forth towards that, I could use towards other things.
I mean, look, that's probably a healthy thing. I think there's definitely a time to not be chasing women. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it definitely needs to be like, you're like, look, I got to focus on me right now. I got to get my life together, or got to get this career off the ground, or whatever the fuck you're going for. So I think it's like, it's not to say like, that's not, I don't know. I mean, look, live whatever life you think
I can get married in my 50s. Marry a girl in her 40s, in my 50s. And because I got to get younger, right? And then you just go off and then she'll be already done, and I'm already done. And it's like, hey, now, because that's when you really need someone is then.
Yeah.
When you're old and shit. Yeah. I don't need to marry you and waste both of our primes. Fuck all that. Let's just, I'm 55, and I'm in a good position now. I can get married and prenup the shit out of you. And then that's another thing, the prenups. Yeah, man. It's just,
there's no romance left in Vigilante's life.
Nope.
Oh,
nah.
Yeah, I mean, look,
because
I can't say I've got. I don't have any evidence.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, my bad. I'm just saying, if like a year from now there is some like girl Vigilante Williamson, a year from then she'll be gone, and I'll just be like, oh my god, I can't believe.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I don't have a lot of evidence in my past that I would make, that relationships work out. My relationship life is pretty bad, but I don't know. A lot of it's me. You know what I mean? A lot of it's like my own bullshit. Plus, it was my life. Being a fucking struggling actor in LA, it's about as sexy as a fucking pile of bricks, dude. They don't fucking give a shit. They're not into it at all. So that had a lot to do with it. And like, just kind of always constantly being insecure because of never having like anything nailed down, like having to like do this like job, the food service job that like, I never identified as like something that I really like or I can like, like, because I got to focus on this acting career and like that never working. And occasionally booking jobs or just, in class and like, oh God, I got to do well. And, just stressing out all the time. Now that like, I still have stress, but it's like, I don't know. I feel more comfortable with me. You know what I mean? Like, not to say that my life is made where I want it to be, but I feel more like in touch with myself and like where I am in the world. So it's like, I don't know now, like, it's like, I have to face that. Like, I wasn't exactly a great option either for a while. You know what I mean? Like, that's got something to do with it too.
I think another thing is like the whole, and that's fair. That's fair to self-evaluate and say, you know what? And honestly, I can say similar things about myself, right? Like, yeah, I probably wasn't the best person to date. But I guess with me, it's like, there are relationships I look back and I'm like, you know what? If that would have worked out, that would have been terrible for me. If I would have married that girl, it would have worked out horribly. Or if this would have got more serious, it would have worked. Like it sounded good at the time.
Yeah.
But you look back and you can say, oh man, because you talked about being in a certain place, financially. It's hard to grow with somebody, and I know we're losing people. We had Kamran Pasha talk about aliens. Now we're complaining about bitches, but
it's fun.
But like the
shit! See,
what?
You got one fan, and that's all you fucking need,
Holy
brother.
Shit!
That's right.
What? Fuck! Listen. Always watch 101. You missed a great show. Please watch the playback. You said, holy shit, I'm just doing the sadness. And oh my God. Ogre Squasher 101 tipping $101.21. Thank you so much. Please watch the playback because it's almost the end of the show. And it was a great show with Kamran Pasha. And yeah.
And like all these conspiracies and the history of Hollywood and all this wild stuff. Yeah, right.
You better not be an Illuminati member. You better not show up in my house one day like, hey, Vigilante. So this is what
exactly. Yeah. What were you saying about Hollywood? Two in the back of the head.
Like fucking the end of the Departed with was it Marky Mark?
Yeah,
he
had
shits on his feet when he went into the
little booties. Yeah.
Little booties. Yeah. I thought that was just such a touch, like a touch of professionalism. That of course he has these little booties on to make sure there's no footprints.
That ending always bothered me though. I felt like it would have been much more appropriate for Matt Damon to have gone to jail. You know what I mean? Like as a disgraced cop, like I feel like he would have just had the fucking shit kicked out of him like every day in jail. Yeah, maybe not though if he's like connected. But then the guy's gone, so it's like no one to protect him.
His main guy was gone. He killed him. Man, I love The Departed. It's one of my.
It's a great fucking movie, man. It's underrated.
It's so underrated. It's a top 10 movie for me.
I think so. It's one of those movies I realized over the years. I was like, I love this. Like, I love putting it on. Like, yeah, I could say objectively, it's probably not as good as like Casino or Goodfellas, and I love both those movies. But it's the most fun.
It's smooth as shit. Like the way it moves. It's like a I'm not even a film guy, but it feels like a masterclass of every element of film.
Yeah.
Of like writing, of scenes, of shooting it, of acting it. Everything just fits. Just even the moment, I can't think of whatever Leonardo DiCaprio's the guy when he falls off the building and just the way it like goes at his face and then you see the dramatic fall and the blood. It's just something about that feeling of oh shit.
Yep.
Now what's gonna happen?
And it fucked with your expectations, like in a good way, like not in a Ryan Johnson way. Like it's just like when DiCaprio gets shot, you're like, whoa, holy shit, he's fucking dead.
Yes.
What? Yeah, so good. And the whole thing with like maybe Matt Damon's character is gay, like that whole kind of like little through line, like that whole thing. That's why he can't fuck his wife and all this shit. It's like really interesting, man. Like it's very interesting. I love that movie. I think it's a lot of fun. It has just enough reality to keep it entertaining, but like it's a stylized movie, so it's fun.
Super stylized, and I love the stylized. I really like that movie. I really think it's good.
I really do too. Yeah. All right. Well, do you want to just end on that, my friend?
Yeah. End on something positive. It was a great show. You guys were great. You guys were patient with us. I'm sorry, even after Ogre Squash, I couldn't get everyone to chat. And sorry, I apologize if anybody was offended, but I'm trying to do the best we can with the show and everyone's time. So, anything you wanted to talk about before we signed off?
No, I'm cool. I mean, I'm grateful that the chat was here. I'm glad everybody liked the show. I think, when we're having guests, especially like when it's not like Tom or comics or something like that, when they're not like YouTubers, you know what I mean? They're more just like people who it's like, I think the chat, I would appreciate that if you guys just like understood that like, we got to talk to them. You know what I mean? Like we can bring up chats if they're kind of relevant to where we're at in the conversation, but it really is more about the guest on those days. So it's like, as much as I know chat interaction is like a big part of why you guys hang out with us and like it's a big part of what we do. It's not necessarily, we don't have like, I know depending on the guest, like I said, but if it's like someone who's like, an actor or whatever. Like it's like they don't know what the fuck that is. You know what I mean? Like,
And
so
it's so hard to stop. Like,
yeah,
all the stuff we were talking.
Yeah.
I try to bring you guys up as I can. Thank you for all the super chats to kind of cap off. We only got 3, but one of them was the potential.
Yeah.
Since Kiddo says it's money laundering, I think it's just love. Ogre Squasher with a 101.21 tip said nothing. Islam the girl had a blank tip for $2, and Brandon the Infinite Wolf, aka GoGo13, tipped $5 just to say awesome to see Kamran Pasha on the show, and that he missed you on Twitter, which we did read to him before.
Thank you, Ogre Squasher. I did sort of vainly wear this shirt, hoping that Cameron would compliment me. He did not. He didn't notice.
I didn't even know what's the shirt.
Oh, Full Metal Jacket.
Oh,
yeah.
And Noble Iroh's expecting clips, so I have to do some clips.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
100%. He made this.
Yeah, I'll try to clip out some on my channel too, so we have like different, elements.
Yeah,
and all that. Yeah. Cool. Right. Well, that was fucking awesome as usual. Thanks for everyone for hanging out. Culture Crime Fighters.
All right, I'm about to hit the outro and get out of here. Peace, everybody.
Deuces.